Hey guys, tonight we are going to do something a little different. We're not just going to learn about the past, we are going to dissolve into it, to feel it on our skin and in our bones. We are traveling back to a time before history, before language, before the first flicker of what we would even call a human soul. Imagine, we are 3,200,000 years in the past. We're not in a time machine, not observing from a safe distance. We are here. Before you lies the vast, sleeping expanse of the East African Rift Valley. The moon is a sliver, and the stars are not your stars. The familiar patterns, Orion, the Big Dipper, have been twisted and warped by the slow, inexorable drift of the cosmos over 3 million years. They are a terrifyingly alien ceiling of light. From this grand cosmic vista, we narrow down to a small figure huddled at the base of a towering acacia tree. And that figure is you. This isn't a metaphor. For tonight, that strange transitional body, halfway between ape and something new, is yours. Over the course of a single brutal day, you will feel the gnawing hunger for calories. You will scan the horizon for impossible predators. You will grasp the first rough stone tool. And you will huddle with your small family for warmth against a terrifying, lightless night. You will live the life of an ancestor so distant, their bones have long since turned to stone. So how did you survive? What were the first sparks of consciousness like in a brain a third the size of your own? And what can this one forgotten life tell us about the deep, primal wiring that still runs our modern world? Thanks to an incredible mosaic of fossil discoveries and cutting-edge paleoecology, tonight we can piece that story together. We will live out that day and find the answers. Frankly, if you were dropped here for real, your biggest worry wouldn't be paying your taxes. It would be the fact that a 30-pound eagle is seriously considering if it can carry off your head. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. That small click sends a big signal to the algorithm. That long-form, serious educational content still matters. And to me, it's an incredibly meaningful show of support. Thank you so much for helping keep this channel going strong. It always fascinates me to see where you're all tuning in from. Let me know in the comments where you are in the world and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The transition isn't jarring, it's a slow bleed. The memory of your bed, the soft glow of your screen, the quiet hum of your room, they all fade into a gentle static. In its place, a new reality asserts itself with cold, hard authority. The first thing you notice is the ground. It is not soft. It is a coarse mattress of packed dirt, sharp pebbles, and dry, scratchy grass. Its cold, leaching warmth from you with an efficiency that speaks of a long, clear night. You are curled into a tight ball, your long arms wrapped around your knees, a position of instinctual self-preservation. A tremor of shivering runs through you, a signal from your body that it is burning precious energy just to stay warm. There's a debate among those who will study your distant fossil descendants. Some fringe theories suggest that your sleep wasn't a single, solid block like modern humans strive for, but a series of naps, a polyphasic cycle of light sleep and alert stillness, ever ready for the snap of a twig. You shift your weight, and a dull, unfamiliar ache blossoms in your lower back. It's the chronic complaint of your species, the price you pay for walking upright. Your skeleton is a brilliant compromise, but a compromise nonetheless. Now, focus on the air. Take a breath. It's thin and crisp, cleaner than any air you've ever tasted. But it's the smells that are overwhelming. There is the rich, fertile scent of damp earth from a rain that passed hours ago. Underneath it, the dry, dusty perfume of the savannah, and a strange, sweet fragrance from a flowering tree you have no name for. And woven through it all is another scent, faint but persistent. It's the smell of ozone, a clean electric tang that hints at the power of the storm that swept through. Scientific analysis of Pliocene geology and ice cores tells us this world was, on average, warmer and wetter than the one you left behind. A greenhouse world of lush riverine forests giving way to vast open grasslands. It was a paradise teeming with life, which is just another way of saying it was teeming with things that want to eat you. Slowly, unsteadily, you push yourself up. Your limbs are stiff, your joints protesting the cold. You are not tall, perhaps 4 feet at most. But as you stand, your perspective on the world changes. You are bipedal. This is your lineage's great evolutionary gamble. And as you stand there, a small, shivering creature under a vast alien sky, let's pull the camera back. Let's see you for what you are. A tiny speck of warm, breathing life on a dark plain. Pull back further, and you are lost in the immense, sprawling geography of the Great Rift Valley. Further still, and the entire continent of Africa is a familiar shape on a swirling blue marble. We drift past the moon, a silent, pock-marked guardian. We accelerate, leaving the solar system behind, the sun shrinking to just another star. We keep going until our own galaxy is a beautiful, spiraling pinwheel of light among countless others. Out here, in the crushing, silent, indifferent void, the concepts of heat and cold, hunger and fear, life and death have no meaning. And yet, on that one insignificant planet, in that one corner of a continent, your heart is beating, a frantic, desperate, impossibly precious rhythm. You are the universe's answer to its own emptiness. And now, the sun is about to rise. Your day is about to begin. The first hint of the sun is not a gentle, golden glow. It's a fierce, violet slash across the eastern horizon. A wound in the fabric of the night. The thin air of your high-altitude world, perhaps laced with fine dust from the distant slumbering volcanoes, splits the light into colors you don't have names for. This spectacle is for you alone. No one will ever see a sunrise exactly like this again. The light spills across the land with a startling speed, chasing the long, distorted shadows back into the trees. And the world is revealed. It is not the flat, uniform khaki of a modern, overgrazed safari park. It's a chaotic, vibrant mosaic of greens and yellows and reds. You are standing at the edge of a riverine forest, a dense tangle of trees that clings to the unseen waterway like a lifeline. Behind you, the familiar silhouettes of acacia trees, their thorns already glittering with the new light. But before you, the land opens up into a vast sea of grass. This is the new world, the arena that is shaping your destiny. For millions of years, forests dominated, but now, thanks to a gradually cooling and drying climate, these C4 grasses, plants that are far more efficient in heat and sun, are conquering the planet. This scientific evidence comes from the shifting isotopic signatures in the fossilized teeth of herbivores, a chemical diary entry that says, "We are no longer eating leaves, we are now eating grass." This very landscape is the engine of your evolution. As the light solidifies, the sounds begin. It starts not as a chorus, but as a series of solos. First, the insects. The air begins to hum, not with the high-pitched whine of mosquitoes, but with a deeper, almost resonant thrumming. Dragonflies the size of your hand patrol the air, their wings making a dry, papery rattle. Then come the birds. Their calls are alien, a collection of clicks, whistles, and deep, booming hoots that echo from the dense woods behind you. There is no gentle chirping here. Every sound is a declaration, a staking of territory. Far off to your right, a sound like a great sheet being torn in half is followed by a guttural grunt. Something very large is awake and on the move. Your head swivels, your entire body a listening device, trying to place the sound, categorize the threat, and calculate the distance. You take a tentative step forward, your bare feet pressing into the still, damp soil. The smell of crushed vegetation rises, a green, bitter scent. The air, which moments ago smelled of rain and cold stone, is now thick with new information. There is the heavy, almost sweet perfume of an unfamiliar blossom. There's the musty animal scent of a herd that passed in the night. And underneath it all, a constant low-grade odor of dust and decay, the smell of a world where life and death are not events, but a continuous, churning process. Paleoecologists still argue about the precise nature of this environment, debating whether it was a true open savanna or more of a woodland mosaic, a patchwork of grassy clearings interspersed with dense groves of trees. To you, this academic distinction is meaningless. You just know that the trees mean safety, and the open ground means food, and your entire day will be spent navigating the terrifying calculus between the two. You rub your eyes, trying to clear the last vestiges of sleep. For a brief, terrifying moment, a strange, shimmering blind spot appears in the center of your vision. A momentary glitch in your optical nerve as it adjusts to the sudden brightness. It's a quirky and little understood phenomenon, this fleeting dawn scotoma. But in this world, a second of blindness can be a lifetime. You blink it away, your focus sharpening, your senses now fully engaged. The world is no longer a collection of vague shapes and sounds. It is a high-definition stream of data. The way the grass moves tells you the direction of the wind. The alarm call of a distant bird tells you a predator is on the prowl. The darker patch of soil tells you where the ground is still soft enough to dig for roots. This is your office, your supermarket, your battlefield. There are no days off. There is no sick leave. There is only the overwhelming, vibrant, terrifying now. The sun has cleared the horizon, and its warmth begins to touch your skin. A fleeting comfort. But it brings no real sense of peace. It only means you can be seen. The night's unseen terrors are gone, but they have been replaced by the things that hunt in the light. The world is awake now, and so are you. Your family, your small troop, begins to stir nearby, their soft grunts and movements a small island of familiarity in this vast alien landscape. The gnawing emptiness in your stomach reminds you of the day's first imperative. The search must begin. The social bonds of your small troop, maybe 15 individuals in total, are the only thing that gives you any real weight in this world. As the sun climbs higher, you move as one, a small, chattering, bickering organism flowing out of the sparse woodland and into the open grassland. The hunger you woke with has now sharpened to a fine point, a constant, insistent demand from your belly. But your search for roots and tubers is immediately interrupted. The ground beneath your feet begins to vibrate, a deep, rhythmic tremor that you feel in your bones long before you hear the cause. You freeze, your knuckles brushing the dry grass, every sense straining. Then you see it. Tearing a huge branch from a distant acacia tree is a creature of impossible scale. Dinotherium. It looks something like an elephant, but it's taller, leaner, and stranger. Its trunk is shorter, and from its lower jaw curve, two enormous downward-facing tusks, like a pair of giant, brutal hoes. It is a walking mountain of flesh, 20 feet tall at the shoulder, and its footfalls are like small, localized earthquakes. Scholars still debate the precise function of those bizarre, downward-curving tusks. Some argue they were used for stripping bark, others for digging up enormous roots, and a few even suggest they were used in combat. For you, this debate is irrelevant. You see it as a force of nature, an entity so far beyond your scale of existence that you might as well be an ant observing a freight train. You give it a wide, respectful berth, melting back into the scrubby brush at the edge of the trees. It hasn't even noticed you. Your entire family could be wiped from existence by one careless step. A footnote in the day of a giant. This is the fundamental rule of your world. You are not in charge. The Pliocene is the age of mammals, and they are here in staggering size and diversity. As you cautiously emerge again, you see a vast, shimmering herd of three-toed horses, Hipparion, grazing on the endless sea of grass. There are thousands of them, their movements fluid and synchronized, a single living carpet draped over the hills. The sheer number of these animals is a fact written into the fossil record. Scientific evidence from bone beds in places like Laetoli and Hadar shows a density of life that dwarfs anything in the modern Serengeti. Their constant grazing, along with the work of the other giant herbivores, is what maintains this landscape. They are the gardeners of this savanna, constantly pushing back the forests, ensuring the survival of the very grasslands you depend on. Looming over the smaller grazers is another impossibility. It looks like a giraffe, but it's built like a heavy-duty pickup truck. It's a Civatherium, a colossal beast with a short, thick neck, broad, moose-like horns, and a body of pure, condensed power. It moves with a slow, deliberate confidence that comes from being almost entirely without predators. It is a walking fortress. The air around you is filled with the background noise of this megafauna, the constant chewing, the snorts, the low grunts, the thud of hooves on packed earth. Some acousticians have proposed a quirky tidbit of a theory called acoustic ghosts, the idea that our modern, natural soundscapes are unnervingly silent, haunted by the absence of the incredible cacophony that filled a world like this one. You are living in a wall of sound that no modern human has ever experienced. And what is your place in all this? You are a creature of the margins, the spaces in between. You are small, soft-bodied, and comically outmatched. Your survival depends on staying invisible. The psychological weight of this is immense. Every moment is lived with a sense of profound insignificance. Your concerns, your hunger, your squabbles with your kin, your search for a sharp stone, are happening in the shadows of beings whose casual indifference is more dangerous than any malice. You are a whisper in a world that roars. This feeling, this constant low-grade awareness of your own fragility, is what sharpens your senses. It's what forces you to be cleverer, more cooperative, more aware than anything else around you. You cannot out-muscle this world, so you must learn to outthink it. As you watch the giants move across the plains, you are not filled with a sense of wonder. You are filled with a deep, abiding caution that is the very cornerstone of your existence. And you are right to be cautious, because not everything in this land of giants is a placid herbivore. The things that hunt them, and you, are just as grand, and far, far more terrifying. The caution you feel in the presence of the world's giants is a deep and sensible instinct. But it is a passive fear, a fear of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. As your troop moves along a game trail, skirting the edge of the open plain, you are now entering the domain of a different kind of terror. An active fear, a fear of being seen, of being chosen, of being hunted. You are surrounded by an architecture of fear, a world designed by and for predators, and you are simply living within its walls. Your eyes constantly scan the tall, yellowed grass that ripples in the breeze. Not for food, but for anomalies, for a patch of color that doesn't belong, for a flicker of movement that isn't the wind. And then you see it. Your breath catches in your chest. Barely 50 yards away, half hidden in the blinding sunlight and shadow, is a patch of spotted fur. It is perfectly still. This is Dinophalis, a name that means terrible cat, and it is an understatement. It's not as large as the more famous saber-toothed cats, but it's more dangerous to you. It's built like a jaguar, a compact bundle of muscle and ambush power, with canines that are shorter, thicker, and far less fragile than its saber-toothed cousins. It is the perfect hominin hunter. You raise a hand, a silent signal, and your entire troop freezes into statues. The cat has not seen you. It is watching the herd of three-toed horses, waiting for a foal to wander too far from its mother. The air thickens with a tension so profound it feels physical. Your life depends on the cat's patience, on its focus remaining on a larger, more satisfying meal. You wait. Minutes stretch into an eternity. Finally, it turns its head away, and you and your family begin a slow, silent, backward retreat, melting into the landscape, your heart hammering a frantic rhythm against your ribs, but the ground is only one dimension of danger. Thirst eventually drives you toward the sluggish brown river that snakes through the valley. The bank is a treacherous slope of slick mud, buzzing with flies. And you know what lives here. You can't see it, but it sees you. Lying submerged, with only its nostrils and eyes breaking the surface, is a creature that has not needed to evolve for millions of years because it is already perfect at what it does. Crocodylus thorbjarnarssoni. At over 25 feet long, it was one of the largest true crocodiles to have ever lived, and this river is its kingdom. Its skull alone is the size of your entire body. The scientific evidence for its terrifying success is etched into the bones of your ancestors. Fossils of hominins have been found bearing the distinct, conical puncture marks of crocodile teeth. Approaching the water is the most dangerous decision you will make all day. You and your troop spread out, a strategy of risk distribution. Some act as lookouts, while others cup their hands and drink, their eyes wide with fear, never turning their backs on the placid, deadly water. Even as you watch the river, a shadow passes over you. You flinch and look up. High above, a large raptor circles on the thermal currents. To a modern human, it's a majestic sight. To you, it's a calculated threat. This is not a vulture waiting for you to die. This is an active hunter. The most chilling proof of this comes from a world away, from a fossil discovered in a South African quarry in 1924. The famous Taung child, a juvenile of a closely related species, was for decades a subject of mystery. But closer examination of its skull revealed the mainstream historical fact that is now widely accepted. A series of punctures and scrapes in its eye sockets perfectly match the damage a modern African crowned eagle inflicts when it kills a monkey, gripping its face with its talons and crushing its skull. This tiny fossil is a memo written in bone from 3 million years ago. It says, "Look to the sky. Even your children are not safe." There's a concept in modern ecology known as the landscape of fear, a quirky tidbit describing how the mere presence of predators can shape an entire ecosystem, dictating where and when herbivores feed. Your world is the ultimate expression of this. Your mental map is not just of food and water sources, but of ambush points, kill zones, and sight lines. Fear is your compass. It is the constant, low-frequency hum beneath every thought, every decision. It's in the way you never walk in a straight line in the open, the way you pause to listen after every few steps, the way you sleep. Paleontologists still debate what predator was most responsible for shaping early hominin behavior. But for you, the question is academic. The danger is total. It comes from the grass, from the water, from the sky. It is silent and patient. It is explosive and sudden. Fear is not an emotion you feel when you see a monster. Fear is the air you breathe. This constant, multidimensional fear shapes every second of your life. But the predators, the hunters in the grass and the water and the sky, are only the actors on the stage. The stage itself is an active participant in your story. It is a world that is being torn apart, and the violence of its creation is the very force that is creating you. You are living in the Great Rift Valley, a 4,000-mile-long scar on the face of the planet, where the tectonic plates of the African continent are slowly, inexorably ripping themselves asunder. As you look out from a slightly elevated ridge, you can see the evidence of this on the horizon. A chain of colossal volcanoes, the ancestors of modern giants like Mount Kenya, stand silhouetted against the morning sky. One of them is breathing, a gentle plume of white steam rising into the blue. They are a constant, brooding presence in your world, a reminder of the immense power churning beneath your feet. This geological activity is a mainstream scientific fact. This rift is the cradle of humanity precisely because it is so unstable. Every so often, the ground gives a soft, liquid shudder. It's not a violent earthquake, just a brief, unsettling tremor that rattles the stones and makes the trees tremble. It lasts only a second, but it's a profound reminder that the very earth you stand on is not solid, not reliable, not safe. It is a work in progress. This relentless geological activity has created a landscape of dramatic extremes. Towering sheer cliffs, called escarpments, slash across the plains, creating natural barriers and potential shelters. Deep valleys hold alkaline lakes that shimmer an unnatural milky blue, their shores white with salt. The water is undrinkable, but it might attract certain kinds of birds or fish. Every feature of this land is both an opportunity and a threat. The cliffs you might climb to escape a predator are also the cliffs you could fall from. The valley that concentrates herds of grazers also concentrates the things that hunt them. The very geology of the Rift Valley, which scientists can map with incredible precision, serves as a powerful piece of scientific evidence for the environmental pressures you face. It created a fractured, varied world of mountains, grasslands, forests, and lakes, preventing any one survival strategy from ever being completely dominant. This instability is the key. A stable, unchanging environment breeds specialists, creatures perfectly adapted to one specific way of life. But your world is the opposite of stable. A volcanic eruption could blanket 1 million acres in nutrient-rich ash, transforming grassland into forest over a few generations. An earthquake could shift the course of a river, turning a lush valley into a dry plain. The climate itself is in flux, oscillating between wet and dry periods. This constant change is a brutal evolutionary filter. It kills off the specialists. It rewards the generalists, the improvisers, the adaptable. It rewards you. The brain that can remember where a hidden water source is during a drought. The hands that can dig for roots when fruit is scarce. The social bonds that allow your troop to survive a lean season. These are the traits that a volatile world selects for. For over a century, the leading scholarly debate tried to simplify this process into a single elegant narrative, the savanna hypothesis. The idea was that as the climate dried, the forests shrank, forcing your arboreal ancestors out into the open plains. This new environment, the theory went, is what drove the evolution of bipedalism. The need to stand tall to see over the grass, to cool the body more efficiently, and to free the hands for carrying tools and food. It's a compelling story, but like most simple stories about complex things, it's likely incomplete. Many scientists now argue that the environment was never just an open savanna, but a constantly shifting mosaic of woodland and grassland, and that bipedalism may have begun long before your ancestors ever left the trees. Some even propose far more quirky fringe theories, like the idea that we passed through a semi-aquatic phase, though this finds very little support in the fossil record. What is certain is this: the world beneath your feet is not a passive backdrop. It is an active, violent, and creative force. As you stand on this ridge, looking out over the vast, sun-drenched valley, you are a creature perfectly in tune with your environment. You are the product of its instability, a living embodiment of adaptation. This magnificent, terrifying, and ever-changing land is both your prison and your crucible. And to survive it, you were given a body that was as much a compromise as the landscape itself. To survive this violent, unpredictable stage, you have been given a body that is a master of compromise. It is a walking, breathing collage of anatomical history, a patchwork of traits inherited from a past in the trees and new adaptations forged for a future on the ground. Let's take a moment, now that the sun is warming the air, to inhabit this physical form, to feel its strange strengths and its chronic weaknesses. First, run a hand over your arm. You are not a naked ape. You are covered in a short, dense coat of dark fur. It's thicker on your back and the top of your head, thinner on your chest and stomach. It does little to keep you warm in the cold pre-dawn hours, a fact you felt intimately just a short while ago, but it is an excellent shield against the punishing equatorial sun and the constant nuisance of biting insects. Now, bring your attention to your torso. You have a massive, barrel-shaped chest that tapers down to a narrow waist, but your belly is soft and rounded. From the side, you look almost pot-bellied. A modern human might see this as a sign of poor fitness, but for you, It is a critical piece of survival hardware. That extended gut holds a much longer intestinal tract, necessary for the slow, difficult work of fermenting and extracting every last calorie from the tough, fibrous, low-quality plants that make up most of your diet. This is a mainstream fact inferred directly from the wide, flaring shape of your fossilized rib cages. You are a walking fermentation tank. Your proportions are all wrong by modern standards. Your arms are long, dangling nearly to your knees, their muscles dense and powerful. Your fingers are longer and slightly more curved than a human's, a clear anatomical echo of ancestors who spent their lives grasping branches. Your legs, by contrast, are short and stocky. They are strong, but they are not built for marathon running. They are built for endurance walking, for carrying your compact body over many miles, day after day. And it's how you use those legs that is your species' defining feature. You are a biped. The most famous scientific evidence for this, the skeleton known as Lucy, shows this unequivocally. Her wide, bowl-shaped pelvis was built to support the weight of her upper body, and the distinct angle of her thigh bone, the valgus knee, proves that she, and therefore you, walked with her knees together, directly under her center of gravity. You walk upright, but it doesn't feel like a graceful, striding march. It's more of a rolling side-to-side gait, a slight waddle dictated by the mechanics of your wide hips. Paleoanthropologists still debate just how efficient your bipedal gait was. Some see it as a clumsy, transitional shuffle, while others argue it was a highly effective and energy-conserving method perfectly suited to your hybrid lifestyle. You certainly feel the cost of it. That dull ache in your lower back is a constant companion, the price of piling the weight of your entire torso onto a spine that wasn't originally designed for the task. But the benefits are revolutionary. Walking upright lifts your head, allowing you to see over the tall grass. More importantly, it frees your hands. Hands that can now carry a sharp rock, a clutch of bird eggs, or an infant, leaving you mobile in a way no knuckle-walking ape could ever be. It also helps you stay cool. A vertical posture exposes far less of your body to the direct overhead sun and lifts your torso into the slightly faster, cooler air moving just a few feet above the ground. Even your feet are a compromise. Kick at the dirt and look down. You have a distinct arch, crucial for absorbing the shock of walking, but it's less pronounced than a modern human's. And your big toe, while mostly in line with the others, is still slightly divergent, a quirky anatomical tidbit that reveals its past as a grasping, thumb-like appendage. It is a foot caught between two worlds, no longer truly fit for climbing, but not yet perfected for walking. This body is a beautiful mess. It aches. It gets hungry. It is not the fastest or the strongest thing in this landscape by a long shot. But it can walk all day. It can climb a tree when a predator appears, and it has a pair of the most versatile, capable hands the world has ever seen. It is a multi-tool in a world of specialists, and for now, that is proving to be just enough. This body, this collection of compromises, is the physical expression of the double life you lead. You are a creature of two worlds, with a foot planted firmly in each. By day, you are a terrestrial biped, striding out into the open grasslands in search of food. By night, or at the first sign of danger, you revert to an older way of being, becoming an agile climber, seeking refuge in the vertical world of the trees. This is not a contradiction. It is your single greatest survival strategy. For decades, anthropologists have argued about where to place you on the spectrum between ape and human. Some have seen your kind as an upright walker that still retained a few primitive climbing traits. Others have argued the opposite, that you were fundamentally a tree dweller who was developing a clumsy ability to walk on two legs. The truth, which your every action demonstrates, is that you are neither. You are a true hybrid, a master of both domains, and your body is the irrefutable evidence. As your troop forages for roots near a thicket of acacia trees, a sudden sharp crack echoes from the woods. You don't know what it was, a branch breaking under the weight of a predator perhaps, and you don't wait to find out. In a heartbeat, your slow, methodical digging transforms into explosive action. You sprint the few yards to the nearest tree, and the adaptations for walking give way to the adaptations for climbing. Your long, powerful arms reach up, and your slightly curved fingers find purchase on the rough, textured bark. Your slightly divergent big toe, a clumsy feature on the flat ground, now provides a crucial extra pivot point and grip against the trunk. You haul yourself upward with an upper body strength that would shame a modern Olympic gymnast. Within seconds, your entire troop is 10 feet off the ground, silent and watchful, peering down from the safety of the thorny branches. This ability is written into your skeleton. The most compelling scientific evidence comes from your shoulder. The socket of your shoulder joint, the glenoid fossa, is tilted slightly upward. It's a subtle thing, but it's a feature shared with modern apes, and it's a mainstream fact that strongly indicates your arms were frequently used in an overhead, weight-bearing position. A dedicated walker, like a modern human, has a shoulder socket that points out to the side. Yours points to the sky, a clear sign that climbing wasn't just an occasional emergency measure. It was a fundamental part of your life. It was how you slept, how you escaped, and how you survived. Then, when the perceived danger has passed, you descend. Your feet touch the ground, and the roles reverse. The powerful climbing muscles of your back and arms relax, and the burden of locomotion is transferred to your wide pelvis, your stocky legs, and your arched, shock-absorbing feet. The world of vertical movement is left behind, and the horizontal world of the savannah opens up before you again. Your body is a biological Swiss Army knife. You are not the fastest runner, nor the most elegant climber, but you can do both, which makes you infinitely more versatile than the specialists around you. The fleet-footed gazelle cannot climb to escape. The leopard, a brilliant climber, is less efficient at covering long distances on the ground. You can do what they cannot. You can switch tactics, moving between ecosystems as it suits your needs. There's a quirky little idea in evolutionary biology called the scaffolding theory, which suggests that evolution doesn't design new things from scratch. It tinkers, modifying and repurposing older structures, often leaving behind remnants of the previous design, like a builder leaving up old scaffolding. Your body is the ultimate example of this. Your ape-like shoulders are the old scaffolding upon which a new, bipedal body is being built. It's not neat. It's not perfect. It's a beautiful, functional mess. So this life you lead, this daily commute from the trees to the ground and back again, isn't a sign of being primitive or transitional. It is a highly successful adaptation to the world you inhabit. The ground offers the rich bounty of the expanding grasslands, the roots and seeds and potential carcasses. The trees offer a sanctuary that the vast majority of predators cannot reach. By mastering both, you have carved out a niche that is uniquely your own. This duality is your genius. This hybrid body, this master of two worlds, is an incredible machine. But what is it like to be the pilot? What kind of mind sits behind these eyes, processing the flood of information from this dangerous world and directing this patchwork of anatomical compromises? To understand your life, we must now turn inward into the quiet, 3-pound universe inside your skull. First, let's be clear about the hardware. Your brain is small. At around 450 cubic centimeters, it is roughly a third the size of a modern human's brain, putting it squarely in the range of a modern chimpanzee. It is a low-powered engine by our standards, but crucially, it is not just a smaller version of a human brain, nor is it simply a larger version of an ape's. The scientific evidence from endocasts, fossilized impressions of the brain's surface left on the inside of a skull, suggests something remarkable. While the overall size was ape-like, certain regions, especially those related to association and complex thought in the cerebral cortex, seem to have been subtly reorganizing. Your brain was beginning to rewire itself for a new way of being. So what does it feel like to think with this mind? The most profound difference is the silence. Your consciousness is not a constant, chattering internal monologue. You are not thinking in words, because words do not yet exist. There is no voice in your head narrating your life, weighing pros and cons, or worrying about what others think of you. Instead, your thought process is a raw, direct, and incredibly efficient stream of sensory inputs, emotions, and urges. You are walking, and your eyes spot a flash of red in a bush. This single input triggers a cascade, but it is a cascade of images and feelings, not sentences. The image of the red berries is instantly cross-referenced with your memory, an image of eating them before, a feeling of the sweet taste, the sensation of a full belly. This is paired with a primal surge of desire, the pull of your gnawing hunger. This is immediately followed by a wave of caution, a quick automatic scan of the surrounding area, your ears straining for the sound of a predator, your nose testing the air. The entire thought, there are berries, they are good to eat, but is it safe? Takes place in a fraction of a second, a silent, lightning-fast negotiation between instinct, memory, and perception. Your relationship with time is also fundamentally different. You have a past, but it's a functional past, not a narrative one. You remember that a particular grove of trees is a safe place to sleep. You remember the pain of a scorpion's sting and know to avoid them. You remember the face and smell of your own infant, but you do not reminisce. You don't lie awake thinking about what happened last season. The past only exists for you as a library of practical survival guides. The future is an even shorter road. Your planning horizon extends to sunset. You know you need to find a safe place to sleep before the nocturnal hunters emerge. You might carry a particularly good stone with you for a few hours, anticipating the need to crack open a bone or a hard-shelled fruit later in the day. But you do not have a concept of next week, let alone next year. You don't store food for a distant winter. You are living almost entirely in the present tense. Scholars are fiercely divided on when the lights of true self-awareness switched on in our lineage. Do you know that you are you? Do you possess a theory of mind? An understanding that your troop mates have their own separate thoughts and desires? It's a question we may never be able to answer. There was a quirky speculative theory known as the bicameral mind, which, while largely dismissed for humans, offers a fascinating lens through which to imagine your consciousness. It proposed that early humans didn't experience an internal monologue, but perceived their own thoughts as external commands. While unlikely, it helps to frame the sheer alien nature of your inner world. a mind that directs action without the constant hum of self-aware narration. Your mind is not a lesser instrument. It is a different one. It is a tool forged for immediate, high-stakes survival. It is unburdened by regret for the past or anxiety for the future. It is a mind built to experience the overwhelming reality of the Pliocene with a purity and directness that your descendants, lost in their own narrated thoughts, will never know again. This ailent, non-verbal mind is not an empty room. It is a vast chamber filled to the brim with raw, unfiltered sensory data. Because you do not have language to label, categorize, and abstract the world, you must experience it directly, with a sensory acuity your descendants can barely imagine. Your senses are not passive receivers of information. They are the very language in which you think. Your primary sense, the one that paints the most detailed picture of your world, is smell. For a modern human, a breeze is just a feeling on the skin. For you, every shift in the wind is a detailed intelligence report. You lift your head now, turning your face into a gentle current of air, and close your eyes. The air arrives not as a single smell, but as a complex chord of distinct notes. There is the bass note of damp earth and crushed grass. Layered on top is the chalky mineral scent of a dry riverbed nearby. Faintly from the east comes the musky, almost greasy odor of a herd of wildebeest. And then, a sharp, unsettling tang, a coppery metallic scent that makes the fine hairs on your arms stand up. A predator has made a kill somewhere upwind. It's too far away to be an immediate threat, but its presence is now a known fact, logged into your mental map of the day. The scientific evidence from cranial endocasts suggests your olfactory bulb, the part of the brain that processes smell, was far larger and more prominent than a modern human's. You think with your nose to a degree that is profoundly alien. Your vision is just as specialized. A mainstream scientific fact of your lineage is that you possess full trichromatic color vision, a gift from your fruit-eating primate ancestors. This allows you to see the world in a vibrant spectrum, to distinguish the subtle red of a ripe berry against a background of green leaves, or the yellowing of grass that signals a dry season. It's a critical tool for foraging. But your eyes are not built for reading fine details. They are built for detecting patterns, and more importantly, breaks in those patterns. As you scan the horizon, your brain automatically performs a kind of data filtering. The rhythmic, hypnotic swaying of a million blades of grass is registered and ignored. What you are looking for is the thing that doesn't sway, the unnatural stillness of a crouching cat, the subtle, vertical line of a leg that doesn't belong. Your survival depends on spotting the signal within the noise. Your hearing is your alarm system, perpetually tuned to the frequency of danger. While you forage, head down, digging for roots, you are not cut off from the world. Your ears are constantly swiveling, sampling the soundscape. Most of it is ambient, ignorable noise, the hum of insects, the rustle of the wind. But then you hear it. A single sharp snap. It's not a loud sound, but it is a piercing one. Your head jerks up instantly, your entire body frozen. Your brain exhibits a quirky but vital perceptual bias known as auditory looming. It perceives a sound that is growing in volume, like an approaching footstep, as moving much faster and arriving much sooner than it actually is. This isn't a bug in your perception. It's a life-saving feature that buys you a precious half-second of reaction time. You listen, motionless, for what feels like an eternity, until you hear the sound again and identify it as one of your own troop members carelessly stepping on a dry twig. The tension drains from your shoulders. And then there are the intimate senses. Taste is not for pleasure, it is for analysis. You bite into a newly discovered root. The immediate bitterness is a chemical warning, a signal of potential toxins that tells you to spit it out. A fruit, by contrast, floods your mouth with sweetness, a clear and honest signal of precious, energy-rich sugars. The rare, sought-after taste of scavenged marrow is something else entirely. A rich, fatty, metallic flavor that your brain registers as a jackpot, a resource to be treasured. Touch, too, is a constant stream of information. The reassuring warmth of your kin as you huddle at night, the painful sharpness of a stone flake, the soft fur of your infant, the intricate social data exchanged through the careful, focused act of grooming. Scientists still debate which sensory input was most critical for your survival, the primate's legacy of vision or the savannah's demand for a superior sense of smell and hearing. But for you, there is no hierarchy. Your reality is a seamless, multisensory sphere of information. The world is constantly speaking to you, not in words, but in scents, sounds, and colors, and your survival depends on your ability to listen. The world you perceive through this symphony of senses is not a world you face alone. Your individual existence, your personal bubble of sensory awareness, is nested within a larger, more complex entity, your troop. You are not just a solitary creature. You are a son, a daughter, a mother, a cousin, a rival, and an ally. Your identity is a collective one, and as the morning sun begins to warm the earth, this social world awakens around you. One by one, the others descend from the relative safety of the sleeping trees. It is not a casual or hurried process. The dominant male, larger and more robust than the others, comes down first. He stands at the base of the tree, his head held high, his powerful shoulders squared as he scans the surroundings, his nostrils flaring to catch any scent of nocturnal predators still lingering in the cool air. Only when he gives a low, rumbling grunt of assent do the others follow. The mothers are last, their infants clinging tightly to the fur on their chests or backs. Your group is small, perhaps 20 individuals in total, a multi-generational family of grandparents, parents, and children. You know each one by their unique smell, the specific cadence of their movements, and the subtle map of scars on their bodies. The social structure of your troop is a constantly shifting web of dominance, kinship, and temporary alliances. The large male projects an aura of authority, but his position is not absolute. It relies on bluff and intimidation, and it can be challenged. The true, stable core of the group is the network of elated females, mothers, daughters, and sisters. They are the keepers of social knowledge, and their bonds form the bedrock of your society. The scientific evidence for this complex dynamic comes from the fossils themselves. The notable size difference between males and females in your species, a condition known as sexual dimorphism, points to a system of male-male competition. Yet paleoanthropologists continue to debate the core structure of your society. Was it a polygynous group with a single dominant male, like a gorilla's, or a more fluid multi-male, multi-female community, closer to that of a chimpanzee? The bones can only tell us so much. For now, the morning begins with the essential business of reaffirming social bonds, a process conducted almost entirely without sound. A juvenile, bolder than is perhaps wise, pesters one of the older males, trying to initiate a game of chase. The old male simply turns his head and gives the youngster a long, hard stare, a silent and unambiguous command to back off. Two sisters sit side by side, one reaching out to gently touch a fresh wound on the other's arm, a gesture of pure empathy. The entire group functions with this silent language of posture, gesture, and gaze. But the most important social ritual is about to begin. You approach your mother, who is sitting with her back to the rising sun, and settle on the ground behind her. You begin to groom her. This is not primarily about hygiene. It is the lifeblood of your social world. With focused, methodical care, your fingers part the thick fur on her back, searching for parasites, thorns, or flakes of dry skin. The rhythmic, repetitive motion is calming for both you and her. It is a physical act that communicates trust, affection, and loyalty. A grooming session can be a political act, used to curry favor with a more dominant individual. It can be a form of reconciliation after a fight over food. It can be a tender exchange between a mother and child. It is the glue that holds your fragile society together. A mainstream fact of primatology is that the time spent grooming is directly proportional to the complexity of the group's social life. The quirky and compelling social brain hypothesis suggests that the primary driver of primate brain evolution was not the challenge of finding food, but the immense computational power required to navigate an ever-shifting social landscape. Your brain, small as it is being stretched to its absolute limits, tracking the intricate network of relationships within your troop. Who is allied with whom? Who is in a position of strength today? Who still owes you a favor from that time you shared a clutch of bird eggs? This is the complex calculus that occupies your mind. You are not just a creature in a landscape. You are a politician in a small, fiercely intimate society. And this society, this troop, is your fortress. It is your only defense against the giants and the hunters that roam this world. The delicate dance of social politics and grooming fades as a more ancient and urgent imperative takes over. Hunger. It's a collective, hollow ache in the belly of your troop, a biological command that silences squabbles and focuses the mind. With a final scan of the horizon, the dominant male sets off at a steady, rolling pace, and the rest of you fall in line. The great, endless search has begun. This is your job. It is the primary occupation of your life, the activity that will consume the vast majority of your waking hours from the day you can walk until the day you die. Your movement is not a random, hopeful wandering. You are following an invisible map, a vast and detailed atlas of your territory that exists only in the collective memory of your troop. This is your most precious inheritance. It's a map not of roads and landmarks, but of resources, dangers, and seasons. You know that a particular ridge, 3 miles to the west, is covered in tubers that are best after a heavy rain. You know that the stand of fig trees by the bend in the river will not be ripe for another moon. You know to avoid the narrow canyon where the winds are treacherous and predators can easily lay an ambush. This complex knowledge, a mainstream fact of primate ethnography, is passed down through generations not by language, but by a lifetime of shared experience, of children watching their mothers, of the young following the old. The work itself is arduous. You stop at a patch of tough, wire-like shrubs that a modern human would dismiss as inedible weeds, but you recognize the specific shape of the leaves. You kneel, your powerful hands, with their slightly shorter thumbs and strong fingers, acting as shovels. You use a broken, unmodified stone you picked up earlier to loosen the hard, sun-baked earth, digging down until you expose a pale, swollen root. You pull it free, knock off the dirt, and take a bite. The taste is not a pleasant one. It's chalky, fibrous, and bitter. But your mind registers it as what it is: a dense package of underground starch, a reliable source of calories when nothing else is available. You spend a long time here, the whole troop working in quiet unison, methodically excavating the earth for these vital, unappetizing treasures. At one point, you pause your digging and walk over to a small, exposed clay deposit near a dry wash. Here, you do something that would seem bizarre to an observer. You scrape off a small piece of the soft, gray clay and eat it. This behavior, known as geophagy, is a quirky tidbit seen in countless animal species, from parrots to elephants. The clay likely helps to neutralize the toxins present in many of the roots you eat, and it provides a source of essential minerals like salt that are otherwise scarce in your diet. It is an act of instinctual self-medication. The sheer difficulty of survival is written into your very teeth. For a long time, scientists assumed that early hominins, with their primate heritage, must have primarily eaten fruits and leaves from trees, a C3 plant diet. But the scientific proof from isotopic analysis of your fossilized tooth enamel tells a different, surprising story. The carbon that built your teeth as you were growing came overwhelmingly from C4 plants. That means the bulk of your diet was derived from the things that dominate this open landscape: tropical grasses, sedges, and the roots and tubers of savanna plants. You are what you eat, and your teeth are a permanent record confirming that you are a child of the grassland. Of course, scholars still debate the exact composition of this C4 diet. Were you laboriously stripping and eating the tiny, tough seeds of the grasses themselves? Were you primarily focused on the underground storage organs, the tubers and rhizomes? Or does the C4 signature hint at something else entirely? That you were eating the flesh of the animals that were themselves eating the grass? For now, the answer is all of the above. Your strategy is to be a relentless opportunist. You eat the roots, you strip the seeds, you pluck the occasional insect, and you never ever pass up a chance for a windfall. Your entire day is a relentless caloric calculation, a constant battle to find enough energy to fuel your body and your small but growing brain. The gnawing ache in your stomach is never truly gone. It is simply, for a few blessed moments, quieted. The life of a forager is a life of constant, grinding effort for marginal returns. The roots you dig and the seeds you strip provide just enough fuel to keep you going, but they rarely lead to a feeling of true satisfaction. But your world is full of locked boxes of calories, sealed away behind thick hides, tough shells, and hard bone. And you, with your blunt fingernails and modest teeth, do not possess the key. Not yet. Your troop is moving through a dry riverbed, the stones and pebbles clattering under your feet. Your eyes, as always, are scanning for anything of value. You see it at the same time as the others: the sun-bleached skeleton of a large antelope, picked mostly clean by predators and vultures days ago. To most animals, this is a barren scene. But your mind, and the minds of your kin, see an opportunity. You know that locked deep inside the thickest bones is a ribbon of rich, fatty marrow, one of the most calorie-dense foods in your entire world. The problem is getting to it. You pick up a heavy, rounded stone. You've done this before, smashing it against a bone with wild, hopeful force, only to have it glance off or for the bone to skitter away. It is a frustrating, inefficient process. But today, something different happens. You look at the smooth, water-worn cobble in your hand, feeling its satisfying weight. And a new kind of thought flickers in the quiet space of your mind. It's not an instinct, it's an idea. You are not just seeing the rock for what it is. You are seeing it for what it could be. You see a sharp edge hidden within its rounded form, a potential that is waiting to be released. This is the single most important cognitive leap in your lineage's history. It is the birth of technology. This idea now guides your actions. You don't just use any rock. You become selective. You toss the first cobble aside and search for another, one made of a hard, homogeneous volcanic rock like basalt. You know from experience that softer, granular stones will just crumble. You are looking for a rock that will fracture in a predictable way. The mainstream fact of lithic technology is that this choice of raw material is the crucial first step, a sign of true forethought. You find what you're looking for, a dense, fist-sized cobble. You also find a large, flat-topped boulder to serve as an anvil. This is the hallmark of the earliest tool-making tradition, the one your kind invented. This is the Lomequian industry, predating the more famous Oldowan tool culture by hundreds of thousands of years. The scientific evidence for this technique comes from the 3.3 million-year-old archaeological site Lomequi 3 in Kenya, where hominins left behind the anvils, hammerstones, and cores that tell the story of this first technology. You place the core stone on your anvil. Then you pick up a third, even larger rock to use as a hammer. You hold it in both hands, raise it over your head, and for a moment, you pause. You are calculating the angle, picturing the line of force, anticipating the result. This requires a level of motor control and mental planning that is entirely new. Then you bring the hammerstone down with a controlled, explosive force. Crack! The sound is sharp, definitive. A large flake of stone, razor-thin on one edge, shears off the core and falls to the ground. You drop the hammerstone and pick up the flake. It feels strange in your hand, dangerously alive. One side is smooth and rounded, fitting your palm perfectly. The other side is a razor-sharp edge of fractured stone. You run your thumb gently over it, not along it, and feel its unnatural sharpness, a quality that simply does not exist in the organic world. It is sharper than any tooth or claw you possess. Some studies of these ancient flakes and the way they were struck offer a quirky tidbit of insight, suggesting that the makers were predominantly right-handed, a clue to how your brain was already dividing tasks between its left and right hemispheres. This sharp flake is not a weapon. You would not try to fight a lion with it. It's too small, too fragile. It is a key. It is a tool. A major scholarly debate still rages over who these first tool makers were. Was it your direct ancestors, or another hominin species that lived nearby? The tools cannot tell us who wielded them, but as you hold this sharp edge, that debate is meaningless. You carry it over to the skeleton, and with this extension of your will, you begin to process a world that was once closed to you. You are no longer just a creature in the environment. You are a creature that is beginning to change it. You are holding the future in your hand, a sharp-edged flake of stone. It is the key to unlocking the marrow from the dry, ancient bones that lie scattered before you. But just as you are about to put this new invention to use, the world interrupts. A shift in the wind brings a new scent, one that instantly overrides all other thoughts. It's not the faint, old, coppery smell of a distant kill you noticed earlier. This is fresh, rich, and overwhelmingly strong. It's the smell of fresh blood, of torn muscle, of life recently ended. It is a siren song for a calorie-starved brain. Every nerve in your body ignites with a profound, violent conflict. The ancient reptilian part of your brain, the part that has kept your lineage alive for millions of years by being cautious, is screaming one simple, powerful word: run. That smell is the smell of a predator. It means a lion, a saber-tooth, or a pack of hyenas is nearby. Powerful creatures that could tear you limb from limb without a second thought. The scent is a death warrant, a clear sign to make yourself scarce, to melt back into the landscape and live to forage another day. But a newer, more ambitious part of your mind is whispering something else. It speaks in the language of your gnawing hunger, of the endless grinding work of digging for roots. It tells you that the source of that smell is the single greatest prize your world has to offer. Meat. Not just calories, but a dense, compact package of protein and fat, the building blocks for bigger muscles and, crucially, for a bigger, more energy-hungry brain. This link between meat and mind is a mainstream fact of human evolution, the core of the expensive tissue hypothesis, which argues that our brains could not have grown so large without the shift to a higher quality, energy-dense diet. That smell isn't just the promise of a full belly, it is the promise of a different future for your entire species. So you are faced with a choice: to obey the instinct for self-preservation, or to embrace a high-risk, high-reward strategy. You are choosing to become a scavenger. This is not the pathetic, skulking image that the word might conjure. It is an act of incredible audacity. It is a calculated gamble, the Pliocene equivalent of a hostile takeover. The goal is to get in, secure the asset, and get out before the original owners, who are infinitely more dangerous than you, decide to liquidate you as well. The evidence for this audacious behavior is etched in bone. In a place called Dikika in Ethiopia, paleontologists found animal fossils dating back 3.4 million years, even older than the first known stone tools. These bones held an incredible secret. They were covered in fine, parallel scratches. This is the crucial scientific evidence. Under a microscope, these are not the random gnaw marks of a carnivore's teeth. They are the unmistakable, linear grooves left by a sharp stone edge as it was used to slice meat from a bone. Other marks showed the impact points of hammerstones used to crack the bones open for marrow. Long before your kind became adept at making these tools, you were already using them. You were butchers. You were on the path to becoming carnivores. But how did you get access to these carcasses? Paleoanthropologists still debate how your ancestors acquired this meat. Were you a passive scavenger, waiting patiently for the primary predators to have their fill, then slinking in to collect the last pathetic scraps? Or were you something far bolder, a confrontational scavenger that used cooperation and nerve to actually chase the original hunter away from its own prize? The answer likely depends on the situation. To even find the kill, you have to be clever. You cannot smell it from miles away like a hyena. Instead, you rely on secondary signals. You are a master interpreter of the sky. You see a column of vultures circling in the distance, a quirky tidbit of a behavior that acts as a giant, flapping signpost in the sky that says, "Free food this way." You are not just a forager of the earth. You are a forager of information. The conflict within you resolves. The promise of the meat is too strong to ignore. The hunger outweighs the fear. The dominant male gives a low, tense grunt. The troop moves, not away from the scent of death, but towards it. You clutch your new stone tool, its sharp edge a cold, hard piece of courage in your palm. The air is thick with terror, yes, but also with a thrilling, electric anticipation. You are about to risk everything. You move with a kind of lethal caution, your troop flowing through the long grass like a single, multi-limbed organism. The scent of blood is a thick, tangible presence in the air now, and the circling vultures overhead are your guidepost. As you crest a small rise, you see it. The scene is one of primal violence. A large wildebeest lies on its side in a small clearing, its belly torn open. And hunched over the carcass, ripping away great mouthfuls of red meat, is a Dinophalis, the terrible cat. Its back is to you. It is utterly focused on its meal, the sounds of its feeding, wet, tearing noises and the crunch of bone, carrying clearly in the still air. Your troop freezes at the edge of the clearing, a silent, tense council of war. Every instinct screams that this is suicide. But the sight and smell of so much food, a mountain of life-sustaining protein and fat, is a force that can override even the deepest-seated fear. A silent decision is made. You are not going to wait for the scraps. You are going to take the prize. This is not a mad, desperate charge. It is a strategy, a terrifying and audacious piece of theater. The troop begins to spread out, fanning into a wide, shallow arc. The goal is to appear larger, more numerous than you actually are. You clutch the sharp flake of stone in one hand and a heavy, round rock in the other. Everyone around you does the same, grabbing rocks, fallen branches, anything that can be used to make noise and project force. The dominant male moves to the center of the arc. He takes a deep breath. He lets out a deafening, high-pitched hoot, and it is the signal for chaos. The clearing explodes with noise. Your entire troop begins screaming, yelling and banging rocks together, creating a disorienting, terrifying wall of sound. You are all on your feet, waving your arms and the branches you've picked up, making yourselves as large and as threatening as possible. You begin to advance. Slowly, cautiously, a single, screaming, multi-headed monster. This is the psychology of mobbing behavior, a quirky tidbit observed in many social animals. A collective of the weak, through coordinated aggression, can intimidate the strong. The Dinophalis jerks its head up, its muzzle slick with blood. Its yellow eyes fix on the approaching line of screaming apes. It is confused, and then it is enraged. It lets out a low, guttural snarl that vibrates in your chest. For a terrifying second, it looks like it will charge. This is the moment where everything is decided, a battle of pure nerve. Your group does not falter. A well-aimed rock, thrown by one of the larger males, lands a few feet from the cat's head, and the predator flinches. It is a powerful killer, but it is also a calculator of risk. A deep gash from a thrown stone could become infected. A broken tooth could mean starvation. Is this one meal worth the risk of serious injury from this mob of unpredictable tool-wielding maniacs? Scholars still debate how frequently hominins could pull off such a risky maneuver. Was this a rare act of desperation or a regular part of your survival strategy? The scientific evidence suggests it was common enough. The cut marks left by your tools are often found on the meatiest bones of large animals, an indication that you were getting to the carcasses early, not just picking over the leftovers. The cat makes its decision. With a final furious snarl, it sinks its teeth into a huge slab of meat from the wildebeest's flank, rips it free, and retreats, melting back into the tall grass with its prize. It has abandoned the rest of the kill. The moment it is gone, the atmosphere shatters. The terrifying tension implodes, replaced by a surge of manic, adrenaline-fueled euphoria. Your troop lets out a series of triumphant calls and rushes forward to claim your prize. The cooperation that was essential for the confrontation is now essential for the feast. Several of you work together to drag the heavy carcass into the relative safety of the nearby thicket. The real work begins. Your sharp flake, which was just an idea a short time ago, is now in its element. You use it to slice through the tough, rubbery hide, exposing the muscle beneath. Others use their own flakes to carve off manageable chunks of meat. The sound of heavy hammerstones cracking open the thick leg bones to get at the precious marrow echoes through the clearing. You have faced down one of the land's most efficient killers. You did not do it with strength, or with claws, or with speed. You did it with cooperation, with courage, and with a clever idea made real in a piece of sharpened stone. As you taste the rich iron tang of the meat, you are tasting victory. It is the most satisfying meal of your life. The feast is over. For the first time since you awoke, the gnawing ache in your stomach has been silenced, replaced by a rare and luxurious feeling of satiation. The high-energy meat is a furnace inside you, but as your troop rests in the shade of the thicket where you finished your meal, a new tyrant asserts its authority over the day. The sun. It is now directly overhead, a white, merciless eye in a bleached-out sky. The vibrant colors of the morning have been washed away, leaving a world of shimmering heat and harsh, dark shadows. The very air has changed. It is heavy, thick, and so hot that it feels like you are breathing wool. All sound is deadened, absorbed by the superheated atmosphere. The buzz of insects has faded to a low, sleepy hum. The birds are silent. Even the wind has died, leaving a profound and oppressive stillness. This is the tyranny of the midday sun, a daily period of enforced quiet across the entire savannah. Life has not stopped, but it has been driven into the shadows, into burrows, into a state of suspended animation, waiting for the oppression to lift. Your troop, sluggish and full, instinctively understands the new rules. All non-essential movement ceases. The youngsters, who were tumbling and playing a short while ago, are now quiet, huddled against their mothers. Some of you doze, succumbing to the heat and the heavy meal. Others engage in the slow, meditative work of grooming, an activity that requires little energy. Your primary strategy for coping with this immense thermal stress is simple. Do nothing. Find shade, stay still, and wait. You are sitting at the edge of the shade, your back against the trunk of a tree. As you look out at the few members of your troop who are still moving, you are witnessing one of the key advantages of your strange bipedal body. It is an elegant piece of thermal engineering. Because you stand upright, you present the smallest possible target to the overhead sun. Had you remained a quadruped, your entire back would be a broad platform baking under the direct solar radiation. By standing tall, you expose little more than your head and shoulders. This is a mainstream scientific fact and a cornerstone of the thermoregulation hypothesis for bipedalism. You are a walking radiator, perfectly designed to minimize heat gain and maximize heat loss. Your upright posture also lifts your torso and head a few feet higher off the ground, up into a layer of air where the breeze is just a little stronger, carrying away more heat from your skin. Scholars still debate whether freeing the hands or this sophisticated cooling system was the primary evolutionary pressure that drove your ancestors to stand up. The truth is likely that both, and other factors, played a crucial role. But in this moment, as the heat radiates in waves from the baked earth, the benefit is undeniable. Still, your internal machinery is working overtime. Your brain is a delicate, precious organ, highly sensitive to overheating. Deep within your skull, a complex network of veins, a quirky tidbit of anatomy known as the cranial radiator, is shunting warmer blood away from your brain and allowing cooler blood from your face to circulate around it. The scientific evidence for this system is found in the fossil skulls themselves, in the tiny holes, or foramina, that allowed these vital emissary veins to pass through the bone. The rich, protein-heavy meal and the oppressive heat have created a new, urgent need: water. Your mouth is dry, your tongue thick. A powerful, instinctual thirst is beginning to build, cutting through the lethargy. The memory of the cool, life-giving liquid is a powerful motivator. You know where the river is. You also know what lurks there. The daily schedule is a series of negotiations between competing needs and competing fears. The morning was a negotiation between hunger and the fear of predators. The afternoon will be a negotiation between thirst and the fear of crocodiles. As the sun begins its slow descent from its zenith, the worst of the heat breaks. A light breeze stirs the leaves. The troop begins to rouse. The period of enforced rest is over. A new imperative has taken hold. Led by the growing collective thirst, your small band once again prepares to move out into the open, leaving the temporary comfort of the shade for the shimmering, dangerous world beyond. Your troop moves with a renewed sense of purpose, driven by the powerful, collective thirst that the midday heat has instilled. You are headed toward the river, following the familiar mental map of your territory. But the concept of your territory is a fluid one. You do not own this land. You simply have an intimate knowledge of it, a claim that is constantly being asserted and tested. The predators you fear are not your only rivals. This crowded, fertile landscape is home to many other beings who are also intelligent, social, and hungry. You are not alone. As you approach a grove of wild fig trees that lines a bend in the river, you catch the scent of them. It's not the scent of a predator, but the familiar musky odor of other primates. Peering through the dense foliage, you see them. A large troop of ancestral baboons, Parapapio, has already claimed the grove. They are a formidable force. The males are large and powerful, with enormous dagger-like canine teeth that they are not afraid to display. They are currently feasting on the ripe figs, a prize your troop desperately needs for the sugar and water content. Your dominant male lets out a low, rumbling grunt, and your troop halts. What happens next is not a battle, but a negotiation conducted in the language of intimidation. A full-blown conflict would be disastrous for both sides. A deep bite or a broken bone is a death sentence in this world, and both sides know it. Instead, you engage in a tense war of nerves. Your male stands to his full height, grabs a large dead branch, and begins shaking it violently, letting out a series of loud, challenging hoots. It is a display of confidence, a statement that says, "We are here, and we are not afraid." The baboon alpha male answers in kind. He climbs onto a prominent boulder, bares his terrifying teeth in a wide yawn threat, and barks a series of sharp, explosive calls. The rest of your troop provides a chaotic chorus of screams and aggressive postures, while the baboons on the ground slap the earth and return the calls. It is a carefully choreographed exchange of bluffs, a mainstream fact of primate conflict resolution. For several long, tense minutes, the grove is filled with this carefully managed aggression. But your troop has an advantage. Your numbers are slightly greater, and your coordinated noise is more unnerving. The baboon alpha, calculating the odds, eventually decides that defending these particular figs isn't worth the risk of a true fight. With a final series of barks, he begins to lead his troop away, conceding the territory. Your troop cautiously enters the grove, the victory marked not by bloodshed, but by the acquisition of a vital resource. This interspecies competition is a constant feature of your life. But as you finally reach the main riverbank, you face a different, more profound kind of rival. Downstream, at a shallow, sandy part of the bank, is another troop. They are not baboons. They look, move, and smell just like you. Another family of Australopithecus. The scientific evidence is clear from the fossil record that multiple hominin groups and even different hominin species, like Kenyanthropus, shared this same landscape. The Pliocene was a crowded place. The tension you feel now is far greater than it was with the baboons. Those were competitors. These are direct rivals. They use the same resources, the same shelters, the same territory. They are the other side of your own coin. A deep, instinctual suspicion. A quirky tidbit that some might call the evolutionary root of xenophobia floods your mind. Strangers are dangerous. They are a threat. Your dominant male again takes the lead, but the displays are different now. They are more personal, more serious. The hoots are deeper. The stares are longer. You are assessing their strength, their numbers, the health of their males, and they are doing the same to you. Anthropologists still debate the nature of this early hominin conflict. Was it limited to these ritualized, non-lethal standoffs? Or were you capable of the organized, lethal violence that would come to characterize your descendants? For now, the river is wide enough for both of you. You keep your distance, a wide, invisible border of mutual distrust between your two families. You drink quickly, your thirst tempered by a new, more complex anxiety. The monsters with claws and teeth are a known quantity, but the greatest long-term threat to your survival may well be the monsters who look just like you. The standoff with the other troop dissolves without violence. A silent mutual agreement is reached to respect the invisible border between you and your family moves away from the river, the immediate need for water satisfied. The tension of the encounter slowly drains away, leaving behind the familiar low-grade alertness of a normal afternoon. You are walking along the edge of a dry riverbed, a familiar highway of stone and sand, your mind quiet, and your belly, for once, relatively full. Your eyes are scanning the ground, a deeply ingrained habit, but you are not looking for anything in particular. And then you see it. Among the thousands of gray and brown stones that make up the riverbed, one stands out. It is small, fitting neatly in your palm, and it is a deep, reddish-brown color, a piece of jasperite tumbled smooth by 1,000,000 years of ancient floods. But it is not the color that catches your eye. It is the pattern on its surface. By a sheer, breathtaking coincidence of geological history, natural erosion has carved a series of pits, lines, and holes into the stone. The pattern is unmistakable. It is a face. 2 deep-set eyes, a mark for a nose, and a downturned, almost frowning mouth. It stares up at you from the dirt, a cartoon of a face, a message from nowhere. You stop. The rest of the troop continues past you, but your feet are rooted to the spot. Your brain, A machine built for pattern recognition has been hijacked. This is a phenomenon your distant descendants will call pareidolia, the tendency to perceive meaningful patterns in random data, like seeing shapes in clouds or a face on the moon. It's a quirky tidbit of cognitive science, a byproduct of a brain that evolved to be exceptionally good at spotting the camouflaged face of a predator in the grass. But this is different. This pattern isn't threatening. It is interesting. A new feeling rises in your chest. It is not hunger. It is not fear. It is not aggression or desire. It is pure, unadulterated curiosity. A flicker of what, in a more complex mind, might be called wonder. You crouch down, your knuckles brushing the sand, and stare at the little stone face. Why does it look like a face? Where did it come from? These are not questions you can form, but the feelings behind them are there. You are captivated. Then you do something truly revolutionary. You reach out and pick it up. You close your hand around it, feeling its smooth texture, its satisfying weight. This is a profoundly illogical act. This stone has no practical use. Its edge is not sharp. It cannot be a tool. It is not edible. It cannot be food. It is just a heavy, useless pebble. Carrying it will cost you energy, however small. And yet you do. This very stone, or one exactly like it, is the scientific evidence for this moment. It is the Makapansgat pebble, a mainstream historical fact of paleoanthropology. It was discovered deep inside a cave in South Africa, miles from its natural geological source, lying amongst the fossilized bones of your close relative Australopithecus africanus. The clear implication is that some ancient hominin, some creature very much like you, found this pebble, was fascinated by the face it saw, picked it up, and carried it as a treasure, a curiosity, all the way back to their home. The true significance of the Makapansgat pebble is one of the most profound and heated debates in paleoanthropology. To the skeptics, it is nothing more than a curiosity, a fluke. They argue that a clever ape found a strange toy, carried it around for a while, and then lost it. It means nothing more than that. But to others, this small reddish stone represents the dawn of everything. It is the first glimmer of symbolic thought. It is the evidence of a mind that can see one thing, a piece of rock, and understand that it represents something else entirely, a face. This is the fundamental cognitive leap required for all art, all language, all mythology. It is the moment the world is no longer just a collection of things, but a collection of things that have meaning. You don't know any of this. You only know that this strange object feels important. You trace the lines of the frown with your finger. As your troop moves on, you follow, the useless, wonderful, meaning-filled stone held carefully in your hand. You are still feeling the strange weight of the reddish pebble in your hand, a secret piece of a world beyond survival. It is a brief, private moment of wonder. But this world does not allow for such moments to last. Reality reasserts itself with brutal speed. A sharp cry from behind you cuts through the afternoon quiet. One of the younger members of the troop, a juvenile who was carelessly leaping between rocks, has stumbled. He is now on the ground, clutching his leg, letting out a series of high-pitched, distressed calls. The troop stops. The dominant male looks back, his expression unreadable. The juvenile's mother rushes to his side, her face a mask of anxiety. She examines the leg. The ankle is already swelling, twisted at an unnatural angle. In the world you left behind, this would be an inconvenience, a set of crutches, a few weeks of rest. In this world, it is a potential death sentence. A hominin who cannot walk cannot forage. A hominin who cannot run cannot flee. A hominin who falls behind the troop is no longer a member of the troop. They are a meal waiting to happen. This is the razor's edge on which your life is balanced. Pain is not an occasional visitor. It is a constant companion. Your body is a map of scars, aches, and old injuries. But there is a clear line between manageable pain and a fatal compromise. A broken tooth, for instance, is a slow, agonizing path to starvation. An abscess can make it impossible to chew the tough, fibrous roots that sustain you. A deep gash from a sharp stone, perhaps even from one of your own freshly made tools, is an open invitation to infection. There is no concept of medicine, no understanding of hygiene. Your only defense against a raging bacterial infection is your own immune system, a lonely, desperate battle fought from within. The scientific evidence for this brutal existence is carved into the fossils of your people. The study of paleopathology reveals ancient bones riddled with the signs of arthritis, of dental abscesses so severe they ate through the jawbone, of fractures that healed badly, if at all. This is the mainstream fact of your life. It is short, and it is filled with suffering. Your body is a machine that is constantly breaking down, with no spare parts and no mechanic. And what is the role of the group in the face of such a catastrophe? Scholars fiercely debate the extent of altruistic care in early hominins. The cold, hard calculus of survival dictates that the troop must move on. The needs of the many, the imperative to find food and a safe place to sleep before dark, outweigh the needs of the one. To slow down for an individual who will likely never recover is to endanger the entire group. In many cases, the decision would be a swift and brutal one. The injured individual would be left behind. But as the mother grooms her whimpering child, her frantic, gentle touches a clear expression of distress, another possibility emerges. Perhaps the seeds of compassion are already present. If the individual is valuable enough, the offspring of a dominant female, a strong ally, a skilled forager, the troop might make a different calculation. They might slow their pace for a day or two. Others might bring the injured one food, sharing their own meager findings. They might offer protection, forming a defensive circle if a predator approaches. We see these behaviors in other social animals, and it is possible, even likely, that they began here, with you. A flicker of empathy in a world governed by brutal pragmatism. Even for the healthy, life is a constant battle against invisible invaders. Your fur is alive with fleas and lice, a source of endless irritation. Every drink of water is a gamble, a soup of bacteria and microscopic parasites that can cause debilitating sickness. The scavenged meat that provides such a rich reward is also often teeming with pathogens. A quirky tidbit of modern science, the old friends hypothesis, suggests that your descendants' overactive immune systems and allergies are a result of living in a world that is too clean. Your body, by contrast, is a battleground, your immune system locked in a permanent, grinding war that keeps it strong and vigilant. For now, the troop waits. The decision has not yet been made. The sun continues to beat down, and the fate of the injured child hangs in the balance. The strange pebble in your hand suddenly feels very cold and very heavy. It is a symbol of a dawning inner world. But that world is a fragile luxury, easily shattered by the simple, unforgiving reality of broken bone and torn flesh. The troop remains stationary, a small knot of anxiety and indecision in the vast, indifferent landscape. The mother of the injured juvenile is frantic, grooming him, trying to coax him to his feet. The dominant male paces restlessly, torn between the instinct to protect his kin and the brutal necessity of moving on. As you watch this small drama unfold, a prickling sensation runs up your spine. It's the ancient, inexplicable feeling of being watched, a sixth sense honed by 1,000,000 years of being prey. You lift your head and scan the tall, shimmering grass, but you see nothing. The camera of our story now detaches from you. It glides away from your troop, across 100 yards of sun-bleached savannah, past a termite mound shimmering with heat, and sinks low into the yellow grass. Here, lying flat against the warm earth, are the eyes that are watching you. They belong to the Dinophilis, the same cat you drove from its kill earlier in the day. Its world is one of stark, simple realities: hunger, territory, opportunity, and threat. It feels no anger or desire for revenge. The earlier encounter was a simple risk calculation, and it made the correct choice to retreat. Now, a new calculation is being run. From its low vantage point, the world is a series of shapes and scents. It sees the herd of wildebeest in the distance as large, difficult, and dangerous shapes. It smells a rival leopard on the western breeze and knows to avoid that area. And it sees your troop. To the cat, you are not a society of complex individuals. You are a single, confusing, and noisy entity. It remembers the chaos of your mobbing display, the sting of a well-aimed rock, the unnerving sound of your coordinated screaming. A healthy, vigilant troop of your kind is a high-risk, low-reward target. It is a prey item to be avoided. But the picture it sees now is different. The troop is not moving. It is not vigilant. Its focus is turned inward, distracted by the small, whimpering shape on the ground. The cat's gaze, which had been scanning the entire group, now narrows with intense mathematical focus. It has identified the anomaly. It has found the weak link in the chain. The injured juvenile. The cat's brain, a piece of predatory software perfected over millennia, develops what ethologists call a search image. It is no longer seeing a confusing mob. It is seeing a single, perfect target. It sees the limp, the inability to bear weight, the distress calls that signal weakness. This is the mainstream fact of predator ecology. The hunt is not a random chase, but a targeted assassination of the old, the sick, the young, or the unwary. The scientific evidence is unambiguous that your kind was successfully hunted. Hominin fossils have been found in predator lairs and caves, some bearing the distinct puncture marks of a carnivore's canines, a permanent record of a successful kill. The cat begins to move. It is not a charge, but a slow, liquid stalk. It keeps its body so low to the ground that its belly fur brushes the dirt. It uses every dip in the terrain, every clump of grass, every shadow as cover. It moves with a patience that is terrifying, a deep, instinctual understanding of time and distance. The wind is in its favor, carrying its scent away from your troop. The sun is behind it, making it harder to see. Paleoecologists still debate the predator-prey dynamics of this ecosystem. Were you a primary food source for these hunters, or a marginal prey of opportunity? The cat does not know. It only knows that its hunger is a dull ache in its belly, and that a small, helpless piece of meat is just over there, its guardians distracted. From the predator's gaze, you are completely reframed. Your dawning consciousness, your intricate social bonds, the strange, face-like pebble you still carry, all of this is meaningless. You are not the protagonist of an epic story of becoming. You are a resource, a bundle of protein and fat on two legs, a temporary complication in the landscape that the cat must solve in order to quell the fire in its gut. All your hopes and fears are reduced to the simple, biological reality of your flesh. The cat has now closed the distance by half. It freezes behind a dense patch of scrub, its tail twitching almost imperceptibly. Its muscles are coiled, a spring of deadly power, waiting for the perfect moment to release. It is a creature of pure, murderous focus. And your troop, lost in its own internal drama, is still almost entirely unaware of the specific targeted doom that is about to be unleashed. The cat is a coiled spring of death, 100 pounds of muscle and fang ready to explode from the grass. The world has narrowed to this single, terrible point of focus. But the prickling on your neck was not a false alarm. High in a nearby tree, an old female who had been acting as a lookout sees the flicker of movement, the unnatural shape in the grass. She lets out a single, piercing, explosive bark. It is the sound of pure panic, and it shatters the afternoon stillness. The effect is instantaneous. Your troop, a moment ago lost in its internal crisis, explodes into a unified, defensive organism. All attention snaps outward. You and the others instantly form a tight, protective circle, putting the injured juvenile and the other mothers with infants in the center. The air erupts with the same chaotic, intimidating wall of sound you used at the carcass, a cacophony of screams, hoots, and enraged calls. Rocks and sticks are grabbed. The dominant male charges forward a few steps, making himself as large as possible, a clear and unambiguous challenge. The Dinophales, its critical advantage of surprise completely lost, is now facing a prepared, alert, and furious mob. The calculation has changed. The easy kill is gone, replaced by a dangerous, unpredictable fight. With a frustrated, guttural snarl, it uncoils and melts back into the tall grass, a ghost of an attack that never was. The immediate danger is gone, but the aftermath is a storm of adrenaline and fear. And in the chaotic moments that follow, a new crisis unfolds. One of the females, heavily pregnant, who had been standing in the defensive circle, suddenly cries out. It is not a call of fear or of victory. It is a low, guttural moan of pure, physical agony. Her legs tremble, and she braces herself against a tree. The stress and the sudden surge of adrenaline have triggered her labor. The troop's focus, which had been turned outward against the predator, now snaps inward again to this new, equally life-or-death struggle. This is the most dangerous day in a female's life. What should be a natural process is, for your species, a biomechanical nightmare. This is the mainstream fact known as the obstetrical dilemma. Millions of years of evolution have pushed your skeleton in two contradictory directions. The pressure to walk upright has narrowed and reshaped your pelvis, creating a smaller, more constricted birth canal. At the same time, the pressure for greater intelligence has been slowly but surely increasing the size of your infants' heads. The result is a terrible evolutionary traffic jam. The baby is simply too big for the exit. The laboring female is in a state of terror and exhaustion. Unlike a chimpanzee, whose baby emerges facing forward and can practically pull itself out, her baby must twist and turn in a complex sequence to navigate the constricted pelvic pathway. And crucially, it will emerge facing backward, away from her. She cannot reach down to guide it out. She cannot clear the fluid from its mouth and nose to take its first breath. To give birth alone is to almost certainly watch your infant die, and perhaps to die alongside it. Here, in this moment of supreme vulnerability, your troop reveals its greatest strength. The other females, especially the older ones who have survived this ordeal themselves, move in close. This is not a passive audience. This is a team. They form a protective, comforting circle around her. One begins to groom her head and back with long, soothing strokes. Another makes soft, reassuring grunts. They are her shield against the outside world, and her anchor in a sea of pain. The scientific evidence for this is written in the cold, hard mechanics of your skeleton. The size of the adult pelvic outlet and the size of an infant's skull make unassisted birth a near impossibility. Midwifery, in its most primal form, is not a cultural invention. It is a biological necessity. Paleoanthropologists debate whether this shared, dangerous experience was one of the primary crucibles for human empathy. Was it a purely instinctual, cooperative act, or did you, watching her, feel a genuine echo of her suffering, a compassionate drive to help? As she screams with a final, all-consuming contraction, another female positions herself and receives the slick, bloody, and terrifyingly still infant. She expertly clears its airway with a finger, and the silence is broken by a thin, reedy wail. A new life has entered the world. The infant, a quirky tidbit of hominin biology, is born neurologically immature and far more helpless than any other primate. This prolonged dependency is a burden, but it is also a window for learning. The mother, exhausted but alive, takes her baby. The troop gathers, the tension of the predator attack, and the birth finally breaking, replaced by a quiet sense of collective accomplishment. They have faced two kinds of death in a single afternoon, and through cooperation have answered with a new beginning. The new infant, impossibly small and fragile, clings to the fur on its mother's belly with a grip of pure instinct. Watching it, you feel a faint, distant echo of your own beginning. For a hominin, childhood is not a time of sheltered innocence. It is a long, perilous apprenticeship in the art of survival, and the classroom is the world itself. The first year of life is a world of constant motion, experienced from the secure anchor of your mother's body. Your universe is the warmth of her skin, the rhythmic swaying of her walk, the comforting, familiar scent of her fur, and the muffled drumbeat of her heart. Your single most important job, the one skill you are born with, is the ability to cling. As she walks for miles, climbs trees to escape danger, or digs for roots with both hands, you must hold on. A moment's weakness, a slip of your grip, means a fall to the ground, and to be separated from your mother is to be dead within minutes. This is your first and most important lesson. Safety is proximity. As you grow, your world expands, but your method of learning remains the same. Intense, silent observation, followed by clumsy imitation. There are no spoken lessons, no instructions, no warnings. Knowledge is a current that flows from one generation to the next through the simple act of watching. You watch your mother and the other females forage, and you learn to distinguish the leaf of an edible tuber from its poisonous look-alike. You see how they use a simple stick to pry into a termite mound, and you pick up your own twig and mimic the action, your first fumbling attempt at tool use. You watch the complex social interactions of the troop and absorb the rules. You see a juvenile get a sharp cuff for trying to steal food from the dominant male, and you learn the hard lines of the social hierarchy. You see two females grooming each other for an hour after a squabble, and you learn the intricate dance of conflict resolution and alliance. You see the troop make and use stone tools, and you will spend countless hours picking up two rocks and banging them together, not yet understanding the physics of fracture, but perfectly imitating the crucial sequence of actions. This is how culture, in its most nascent form, is transmitted. Your primary education comes in the form of play. The games you and the other juveniles engage in are not frivolous pastimes. They are training simulations for the deadly serious business of life. When you chase each other in shrieking, laughing circles around the trees, you are practicing the explosive speed and agility you will need to evade a charging predator. When you wrestle, you are not just having fun. You are testing your strength, establishing your place among your peers, and learning the physical language of dominance and submission. Tossing rocks at a distant tree is not just a game. It is honing the hand-eye coordination that is the foundation for both tool-making and defense. Play is your school, your gymnasium, and your social laboratory. But for all this learning, your childhood is exquisitely vulnerable. The scientific evidence from the fossil record paints a grim picture. A tragically high number of the hominin fossils we find are those of children and infants. The famous Tong child, victim of a predatory eagle, is a chilling testament to this reality. The list of dangers is endless. A moment of inattention can lead to a fall from a tree or a fatal snakebite. Contaminated water can cause a sickness that your small, developing body cannot fight off. And then there are the predators, who are evolutionarily programmed to see the small, slow, and inexperienced members of a group as the easiest targets. Paleoanthropologists still debate the durations of an Australopithecine childhood. Did you mature at the rapid pace of a modern chimpanzee, reaching adulthood in just over a decade? Or was your development already beginning to slow down, a trend that would become a hallmark of the human line? A longer childhood is a period of greater risk, but it is also a larger window for the brain to grow and to absorb the vast amount of information needed to survive. A quirky but influential idea, the grandmother hypothesis, suggests that older, post-menopausal females played a vital role, helping to care for and provision their grandchildren. By doing so, they eased the burden on their daughters and dramatically increased the chances that their genetic legacy and the troop's collective knowledge would survive to the next generation. As you watch one of the older females now gently groom the new mother, you might be witnessing the very origin of this critical family structure. The new infant has survived its first hour, but it has 1,000 more dangers to face before it is grown. Its survival is not a given. It is a gamble, a fragile hope held in the collective arms of the troop. Your world is a silent one, only in the sense that it is without words. In the absence of spoken language, communication does not disappear. It simply occupies every other available channel with a richness and a complexity that your descendants, deafened by their own internal monologues, will lose. Your troop is a living web of information, a constant flowing exchange of signals, intentions, and emotions that binds you all together. Now that the immediate crises of the predator and the birth have passed, this subtle language is all around you. The dominant male, wanting to move the troop to a safer resting place, does not issue a verbal command. He simply stands, looks pointedly in the direction he wants to go, and gives a short, low grunt. The message is as clear as any sentence. We are leaving. Follow me. A juvenile, wanting a piece of the fruit its mother is eating, does not ask for it. It extends an open, upturned hand and makes a soft, whimpering sound, a gesture of supplication that is universally understood. The mother replies not with a no, but by simply turning her back, a clear and final rejection of the request. This gestural vocabulary is vast and nuanced. A sharp, downward chop of the hand might indicate the presence of a snake on the ground. A repeated pointing gesture combined with an excited series of hoots can convey the location of a newly discovered resource. Your primate face, with its forward-facing eyes, expressive brows, and mobile lips, is a billboard for your emotional state. The hard, direct stare of the dominant male is an unambiguous threat. The wide-eyed, teeth-baring grimace is not a smile. It is a signal of fear and submission. The soft, relaxed expression that passes between the new mother and her infant is a silent broadcast of the most powerful bond in your world. Your vocalizations are just as complex. They are not just random noises. They are a lexicon of vital signals. This is a mainstream fact of modern primatology, with species like vervet monkeys using distinct alarm calls for different predators. Your troop has its own dictionary of danger. A series of sharp, staccato barks causes everyone to immediately look to the sky, scanning for an eagle. A deep, chuffing cough, however, makes everyone look to the tall grass, searching for a feline predator. These sounds trigger an instant, hardwired, and appropriate response, a critical advantage in a world where reaction time is the difference between life and death. Of course, your vocal range is limited by your anatomy. The scientific evidence for this comes from a tiny, rarely preserved U-shaped bone in the neck called the hyoid, which supports the tongue and larynx. The few Australopithecine hyoid bones that have been discovered are shaped more like those of a chimpanzee than a modern human. Scientists fiercely debate what this ape-like hyoid bone means for your vocal abilities. The consensus is that your larynx was positioned higher in your throat, like an ape's, physically preventing you from producing the range and speed of sounds necessary for modern speech. You could not articulate a vowel. But this does not mean you were silent. Your world is full of hoots, grunts, barks, screams, and soft, comforting calls, each carrying a specific meaning, its impact magnified by the gesture and facial expression that accompanies it. A quirky but influential theory proposed by the anthropologist Robin Dunbar suggests that language itself evolved as a more efficient form of grooming. As social groups grew larger, it became impossible to physically groom everyone to maintain social bonds. Vocal communication, what he calls gossip, allowed individuals to groom each other at a distance, servicing multiple relationships at once. As you and your kin now settle and exchange a series of soft, low-pitched hoots, you might be hearing the very first whispers of this vocal grooming, a kind of proto-gossip that is the deep, evolutionary root of all conversation. Your life is a constant 360-degree conversation. It is spoken in the flick of an eye, the posture of a body, the touch of a hand, and the tone of a call. You may lack the ability to tell stories of the past or speculate about the future, but in the intense, immediate present, you are never at a loss for meaning. Every signal you send and receive is aimed at answering the only two questions that matter. How do we survive the world, and how do we survive each other? The conversation of your troop quiets as a new silent signal makes itself known to all. The sun, your companion and tormentor, is beginning its slow, final descent toward the western horizon. The harsh white light of midday has softened into a honeyed gold, and the shadows of the acacia trees stretch out like long, dark fingers across the savannah. For your distant descendants, this will be a time of beauty, of poetry. For you, it is a final, urgent warning. The clock is ticking. A primal, non-negotiable urge begins to rise in you, overriding all other thoughts of food, thirst, or social status. It is the instinct for shelter, the deep biological imperative to find a safe place before the world changes hands. The rules of the day are about to be rewritten. The creatures that hunt by sight will soon be replaced by the creatures that hunt by sound and by scent. The relative safety of the open plain will become a death trap. This deep, instinctual fear of the dark, a quirky tidbit your descendants will call nyctophobia, is not an irrational phobia for you. It is a finely tuned survival mechanism, an evolutionary inheritance from every ancestor who was smart enough to be scared of what the night holds. The soundscape of the world begins to shift. The last of the diurnal birds give their final calls, and a new set of sounds emerges from the cooling air. The high-pitched manic whooping of a distant hyena clan, the chirping of insects that have been silent all day. Far off, the deep, resonant cough of a big cat waking from its long sleep. The world is becoming more dangerous with every passing minute. This transition time, the crepuscular period of dusk, is a mainstream fact of ecology. It is the hour of the hunt, a time of peak activity for many of the world's most efficient predators. The troop's pace quickens. There is no need for a signal from the dominant male. Everyone feels the same urgency. You are moving with a determined, focused energy toward your designated sleeping place, a familiar dense grove of towering, thorny acacia trees. The journey is made more perilous by the troop's new vulnerabilities. The mother of the newborn clutches her infant tightly, her movements slower and more deliberate. The juvenile with the injured ankle is now being helped, leaning on his own mother, their combined pace slowing the entire group. Their survival tonight depends entirely on the group's willingness to protect them. You reach the grove as the last sliver of the sun disappears, leaving the sky a bruised canvas of purple and orange. The daily commute from the horizontal world to the vertical one begins. Your bipedal, walking body gives way to your ape-like climbing one. You grasp the rough, deeply grooved bark of a large tree trunk, your long, curved fingers finding easy purchase. Your powerful arms and shoulders, the old scaffolding of your arboreal past, do the work, hauling your body upward with an ease that belies your fatigue. Archaeologists and paleoanthropologists still debate the specifics of your sleeping arrangements. Did you construct sleeping nests of woven branches like modern chimpanzees and gorillas? Or did you simply seek out a broad, stable fork in a high branch? The scientific evidence is almost non-existent, as such structures would never survive to fossilize. But whether it's a nest or a naked branch, the principle is the same. Height equals safety. You climb until you are 30 feet off the ground, finding a thick, sturdy branch that can easily support your weight. The others are finding their own places in the surrounding trees, the soft grunts and rustling leaves signaling their positions in the growing darkness. The new mother has found a secure spot nestled between the trunk and a large branch, creating a natural cradle for herself and her infant. As you settle in, a profound, soul-deep feeling of relief washes over you. It is a feeling more powerful than a full belly or a quenched thirst. It is the feeling of safety. Down below, on the ground you just vacated, the shadows are merging into a single, menacing darkness. But up here, you are in another world, an island in the sky. The gnawing anxiety that has been your constant companion since dawn finally begins to loosen its grip. You are out of reach. You have survived one more day. The last vestiges of twilight fade to a deep, profound black. The world beneath you, which was a landscape of shapes and colors just an hour ago, has been erased, replaced by an abyss of pure darkness. Up here in your treetop sanctuary, a different world reveals itself. Your senses, no longer dominated by vision, recalibrate. The night is not an absence of life. It is a different kind of life, and it speaks in a different language. First, there are the sounds. The relative quiet of dusk erupts into a complex and often terrifying symphony. The air, which has grown noticeably colder, carries sound with a sharp clarity. From the riverbank comes the constant, high-pitched, almost metallic chirping of thousands of frogs. Closer, the dry grass rustles with the movements of small, unseen nocturnal mammals. But it is the louder sounds that hold your attention, the sounds that paint a picture of the dramas unfolding in the darkness below. You hear the saw-like, rasping cough of a leopard, a sound that seems to come from everywhere at once. Later, a cacophony of frantic, yipping calls that rise and fall in manic waves tells you a pack of hyenas has found something or is closing in on it. A deep, booming hoo-hoo from a nearby tree announces the presence of a giant eagle owl. Each sound is a piece of data that your mind processes instinctively, a constant reminder of why you are not on the ground. The scientific evidence is clear from studying modern carnivores. The night belongs to the hunters. Your entire daily rhythm of climbing at dusk and descending at dawn is a behavioral adaptation to this fundamental truth. When you dare to look up, the sight is so overwhelming, it is almost dizzying. There is no moon tonight, and in a world without a single speck of man-made light, the sky is a roaring fire of stars. This is not the muted, pinprick-on-velvet sky of your descendants. It is a brilliant, three-dimensional tapestry. The Milky Way, the galaxy you are a part of, is not a faint, milky smudge. It is a vast, textured river of light, a celestial backbone stretching from one horizon to the other, so bright that it casts the faintest of shadows. The sheer number of visible stars is a mainstream astronomical fact. In a truly dark sky, thousands are visible to the naked eye, a sight now lost to all but the most remote corners of the modern world. You do not see constellations or gods in these patterns. You see it as it is, a vast, cold, and terrifyingly beautiful ceiling to your world. But the beauty of the sky offers no warmth. The temperature has plummeted, and a cold dew is beginning to settle on your fur, making it feel damp and heavy. The radiant heat of the day has completely vanished from the air. This is the other great danger of the night. The cold. It saps your energy, stresses your body, and can be lethal to the very young or the very old. Your troop's response is as instinctual as the climb itself. You huddle together. You shuffle closer to the troopmate on the same branch, pressing your back against theirs. The shared body heat creates a small, precious bubble of warmth. The feeling of another's fur, the soft sound of their breathing, the simple, reassuring pressure of another living being. This is your only comfort in the long, cold hours. touch becomes a vital language of security and reassurance. Anthropologists can only speculate on the emotional content of your nights. Were they a time of unrelenting, high-strung terror, every snap of a twig below sending a jolt of fear through you? Or, once settled in the relative safety of the high branches, did a kind of peace settle in? It is likely both. The fear is a constant low-level hum beneath the surface, the price of survival. But there is also a profound security in the huddle, a deep-seated comfort in the collective. One quirky psychological theory suggests that the overwhelming celestial displays of ancient nights, combined with the real dangers of the dark, may have been a catalyst for the spiritual and mythological thinking of later humans. For you, however, the experience is more primal. You are a small, warm island of life, suspended between a terrifyingly active Earth and a silent, impossibly vast cosmos. All you can do is hold on, listen to the hunters below, and wait for the miracle of the sun. Huddled high on your branch, suspended between the dangers of the Earth and the silent indifference of the cosmos, your consciousness finally lets go. The external sounds of the nocturnal world fade into a dull, distant hum. Your breathing deepens, your muscles relax, and you fall into the profound vulnerability of sleep. But your mind does not go dark. Instead, it ignites, and you descend into the second world you inhabit, the chaotic, private theater of your dreams. Do you dream? The answer is almost certainly yes. The mainstream fact of modern neuroscience is that all mammals, and particularly intelligent social primates like you, experience the deep, paradoxical state of REM sleep. It is a period where the body is paralyzed, but the brain becomes as active, sometimes more active, than it is during waking hours. This is the biological engine of dreaming. Your body is still, but your mind is on fire. Your dreamscape is not a world of conversations or linear narratives. It is a raw, visceral collage of the day you have just survived, remixed by the strange algebra of your sleeping brain. You are back in the clearing, but the wildebeest carcass is now immense, a mountain of meat. The Dinophalis is there, but when it turns to face you, it has the blank, staring eyes of the reddish stone pebble you found. The fear is real. Your heart rate quickens, your breathing shallows. But the logic is fluid, nightmarish. The sound of the newborn infant's first cry merges with the pained shriek of the juvenile with the broken ankle. A single, haunting sound of vulnerability. You are running, but your feet are heavy, caught in the thick, black mud of the riverbank, and the great crocodile is rising from the water, silent and immense. This chaotic replay is not meaningless. It is one of the most vital biological processes you possess. Modern scientific evidence from sleep studies has shown that dreaming, particularly during REM sleep, plays a crucial role in memory consolidation. Your brain is not shutting down, it is performing essential maintenance. It is sifting through the immense flood of sensory data from the previous day, deciding what is important enough to be encoded into long-term memory and what can be discarded. The terror you felt when the cat appeared is being processed, strengthening the neural pathways that will make you more vigilant tomorrow. The successful mobbing strategy that drove it away is being rehearsed and reinforced, a lesson in the power of cooperation etched into your mind. The location of the fig grove, the taste of the bitter root, the face of the rival hominin at the river. All of these data points are being filed, sorted and integrated into your internal map of the world. Your dreams are a nightly training simulation, a survival-focused software update for your brain. Neuroscientists and anthropologists can only speculate about the subjective experience of your dreams. Were they simply a biological mechanism for threat rehearsal and memory consolidation? A nightly boot camp for the soul? Or did they hold a deeper, more symbolic meaning? Was this chaotic theater the very first canvas for a mythological imagination, the place where the raw emotions of fear, triumph, and wonder were first woven into something resembling a story? Perhaps there is something even deeper at play. This is a fringe theory moment, a step beyond science into pure speculation. Is it possible that in the deepest strata of your dreams, you are not just replaying your own memories, but are touching upon something older? A flickering echo of the fears and instincts of your ancestors. A kind of inherited memory, passed down not in stories, but in the very wiring of your nervous system. In this view, your nightmare of the stalking cat is not just your nightmare. It is the nightmare of 1,000,000 generations who also learned to fear the things with teeth in the dark. You stir on your branch, a low grunt escaping your lips. The dream, with its impossible monsters and its urgent lessons, dissolves back into the darkness. The night is not yet over, but the most important work is done. The experiences of the day that has passed have been processed, analyzed, and transformed into the knowledge you will use to survive the day that is to come. Your sleeping mind is your silent, secret, and most powerful ally. The dream of the hunt fades with the first gray light of dawn. You awaken stiff and cold, the sounds of the nocturnal world receding as the first birds begin their calls. The troop stirs, and the familiar morning ritual begins. The cautious descent from the trees, the quick, nervous scan of the surroundings. But today, the familiar rhythm is broken. There is a new, tense quiet at the center of the troop. The young juvenile with the injured ankle is worse. Much worse. A fever has taken hold during the night, a fire from within that his small body could not fight. His mother has been huddled over him, but his frantic, pained cries have softened to weak, shallow breaths. As the sun's first rays touch the treetops, he falls still. You and the others watch this profound, terrifying transition. There is no grand drama, no final struggle. There is only a sudden and absolute stillness. One moment, he was a living, breathing member of your family. The next, he is a thing. His eyes, which were filled with pain and fear, are now vacant, glassy, reflecting the sky. The warmth has already begun to leave his body. To your mind, which has no concept of a soul or an afterlife, this is an inexplicable and horrifying magic trick. It is the ultimate wrongness. What follows is not a ceremony, but a raw and confused outpouring of emotion. The other juveniles, his playmates, approach the body cautiously. One of them reaches out and prods his still shoulder as if to wake him up. Another begins to groom his fur, a gesture of comfort that now receives no response. They are utterly bewildered. The body looks like their friend, but the essence of their friend has vanished, leaving behind a deeply unsettling, empty shell. This is a primal encounter with the uncanny valley, the quirky psychological tidbit describing the eerie feeling we get from something that looks almost, but not quite, alive. The mother's reaction is the most profound. Her grief is a physical, all-consuming force. She lets out a series of heart-rending, frantic calls. She nudges the body, tries to lift it, tries to groom it back to life. She may even succeed in heaving the limp form onto her back, trying to carry her child as she has done every day of his life, only to have the lifeless body slip and fall awkwardly to the ground. This is not speculation. It is a mainstream fact of primatology. This exact heartbreaking behavior has been documented in chimpanzee mothers, who have been known to carry the bodies of their dead infants for days, even weeks, unable to accept the finality of the loss. The scientific evidence for this capacity for grief comes not from fossils, but from watching our closest living relatives. Elephants have been observed visiting the bones of their dead, gently touching the skulls and tusks with their trunks. Chimpanzee troops have been seen falling into a deep, silent, and somber state after the death of a prominent member. Primatologists and philosophers still debate the nature of this animal grief. Is it a true, self-aware mourning for a unique individual whose consciousness has been extinguished? Or is it a more instinctual, programmed response to the profound disruption of a powerful social bond? As you watch the grieving mother, you feel a complex mixture of emotions. There is fear. Death has visited your troop, a reminder of your own fragility. There is confusion, but there is also a shared sense of the mother's distress, a form of empathy, a reflection of her pain in your own mind. The rest of the troop is unsettled, glancing nervously at the small, still form and at the grieving mother, then out at the surrounding savannah. This stillness, this focus on death, makes you vulnerable. Eventually, the iron law of survival must reassert itself. The dominant male, after allowing the mother time with her dead, lets out a low, insistent grunt. It is time to move. The living must continue their search for food and water. The mother now faces the most terrible choice imaginable: to stay with the body of her son and be left behind to face certain death, or to abandon his remains and save herself. After a final desperate attempt to rouse him, she lets out one last mournful cry and turns to follow the troop. She will look back again and again, but she will not stop. The troop moves on, leaving the small body to be quickly and efficiently reclaimed by the ecosystem. There is no grave, no ritual, only an empty space in the fabric of the family, a silence where a life used to be. The empty space left by the dead juvenile is a fresh wound in the troop's social fabric. His short life was a gamble that did not pay off. But as your family moves on, the profound sadness of the mourning is balanced by another, quieter presence among you. It is the old female, the one who gave the alarm call that saved you from the Dinophiles. She is the other side of the coin, the living proof that the gamble of life can sometimes be won. To be old in your world is to be a statistical miracle. Life is so relentlessly dangerous that the vast majority of your kin will never see their fur turn grey. They will be taken by predators in their youth, die in accidents in their prime, or succumb to infected wounds or sickness long before their bodies begin to truly fail them. The scientific evidence in the fossil record confirms this. Very few of the skeletons of your people show the telltale signs of advanced age. To have survived for perhaps 30 or 35 years, as this old female has, is an achievement comparable to a modern human living to be 100. She is a champion survivor. But her victory has come at a great cost. Her body is a roadmap of a hard-lived life. Her movements are slow, deliberate, her joints stiff with the pain of what your descendants will call arthritis. Her fur is thin in places, and the skin around her eyes and muzzle is wrinkled and loose. Most dangerously, her teeth, the essential tools for processing your tough, gritty diet, are worn down almost to the gums. Chewing is a slow, laborious, and often painful process for her. She is physically the weakest member of your troop, the most dependent. She cannot forage as efficiently as the others, and she is the slowest to climb into the safety of the trees at night. By the brutal logic of nature, she should be a liability, a burden on the group's resources. And yet she is not. She is, in fact, the single most valuable asset your troop possesses. In a world without writing, a world where all knowledge must be held in living minds, her brain is a priceless library, a vault of accumulated experience that far surpasses anyone else's. You see this value in action. As the dry season wears on, the familiar waterhole shrinks to a muddy puddle. The troop grows anxious, the spectre of thirst returning. But the old female is not distressed. After scanning the horizon, her gaze distant, she lets out a soft grunt and begins walking in a direction you do not normally travel. She is accessing a memory from a drought that struck a decade ago, a memory that no one else in the troop is old enough to possess. She is leading you to a small, hidden spring, tucked away at the base of a cliff, a place that never runs dry. Her memory has just saved the lives of everyone in your family. This is her function. Her mind holds the map of deep time. She remembers the once-in-a-generation flood and knows the high ground to seek. She remembers the signs of a coming pestilence of insects. She has seen more seasons, more births, more deaths, more predator tactics than anyone. The quirky tidbit of human evolution is our unusually long post-reproductive lifespan, particularly in females. It's an evolutionary puzzle unless those extra years serve a purpose. The old female is that purpose personified. She is the living embodiment of the grandmother hypothesis, an individual who no longer reproduces, but who ensures the survival of her genetic legacy by safeguarding her children and grandchildren with her wisdom. Anthropologists debate the evolutionary calculus of old age. At what point does an individual's value as a repository of knowledge outweigh the cost of supporting them? For your troop, the calculation is a simple one. They carry food to her. They wait for her. They protect her. They do this because her mind is their collective insurance policy against the unpredictable violence of this world. She is a paradox. She is the most fragile and the most powerful member of your troop. Her body is failing, but her mind is the anchor that holds you all steady. Her presence is a sign of a profound shift in your lineage, a growing understanding that the strength of a jaw or a bicep is fleeting, but the strength of memory, passed down through generations, is the key to a future you cannot yet imagine. Your life is a tapestry woven from the immediate and the intimate. The pang of hunger, the fear of a predator, the comfort of your kin, the memory of the dead, the wisdom of the old. Your world is the 10 or 20 square miles of territory that you know like the back of your hand. But your life and the fate of your entire species is being shaped by forces so immense and so slow that you are completely unaware of them. While you are struggling to survive the day, the world itself is in the midst of a profound and unstoppable transformation. You feel its effects not as a concept, but as a series of small, unsettling changes. The rainy season, this year, seemed to end a little sooner than the last. The grove of fruit trees that was always so reliable now yields a smaller, less satisfying harvest. The river, the lifeblood of your territory, runs a little shallower. You do not have the framework to connect these dots, to see the larger pattern. You only know that the work of survival feels just a little bit harder than it used to. Now, let's pull the camera back, far beyond the horizon, beyond the atmosphere, into the cold silence of space. From here we can see the true engine of your destiny. The planet is cooling. This is a mainstream fact of paleoclimatology. For millions of years, the Earth has been in a warm greenhouse phase, but that is ending. Far to the south, the continent of Antarctica is covered in a sheet of ice that is growing, locking up vast quantities of the world's water. Far to the north, permanent ice caps are beginning to form for the first time. The great tectonic plate of South America is finally colliding with North America, closing the Isthmus of Panama and completely rerouting the planet's ocean currents. These global events have a direct and dramatic impact on your small corner of East Africa. The reliable ancient patterns of rainfall are being disrupted. The world is becoming, on average, cooler and, most importantly, drier. The lush, humid woodlands that once dominated the landscape are in retreat. In their place, the hardier, more drought-resistant grasslands and open savannas are expanding, relentlessly conquering the continent. This is the engine of your evolution. The changing climate is an unforgiving planetary scale filter. Any species too specialized, too dependent on the deep shade and abundant fruit of the forest, is being pushed toward a cliff edge. Their world is shrinking, their resources dwindling. Extinction is not a possibility. It is an inevitability for most of them. The scientific evidence for this transformation is overwhelming, drawn from a dozen different fields. Geologists find it in the chemical signatures of deep-sea sediment cores that act as a global thermostat. Paleobotanists find it in the layers of fossilized pollen trapped in ancient lake beds, which show a clear shift from tree pollen to grass pollen. Your species is caught in the middle of this great transition. You are living on the knife's edge of extinction. Every one of your unique adaptations, your bipedal legs that are so efficient at crossing open ground, your hybrid body that can still seek refuge in the shrinking groves of trees, your flexible, omnivorous diet, your newfound ability to make tools, your complex social bonds, is being tested. You are not the inevitable victor of this story. You are one of nature's many experiments, and the experiment could still fail. Paleoclimatologists still debate whether this drying trend was a slow, gradual shift or a series of rapid, dramatic pulses of climate change. Did your ancestors have thousands of generations to slowly adapt? Or were you being hit by sudden, catastrophic droughts that lasted for centuries, creating intense bottlenecks where only the most adaptable and resourceful of your kind survived? The evidence is not yet clear. A quirky but powerful idea in evolutionary biology is the Red Queen hypothesis, named for the character in Through the Looking Glass, who tells Alice, "It takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place." This is your reality. All of your clever adaptations, all of your social cooperation, all of your struggles are not necessarily moving you forward. They are simply allowing you to keep up with a world that is constantly changing under your feet. You are running as fast as you can, evolutionarily speaking, just to stay in the race. You, in your small troop, feel none of this grand cosmic pressure. You only feel the sun on your back, the dust in your throat, and the knowledge that the next reliable water source is just that little bit further away than it was a generation ago. You feel the dry wind on your face and the hard, unforgiving ground beneath your feet. You are a small, vulnerable creature, a pawn in a planetary game of climatic chess. But you are not merely a passive object being shaped by your environment. You are an active participant. Your lineage, in its journey from the forest to the savannah, has made a series of audacious, high-stakes gambles. Every part of your being, from the arch of your foot to the spark of an idea in your mind, is a testament to a risky bet that, so far, has paid off. Consider the first and most fundamental gamble. You stood up. Your ancestors made the evolutionary wager that the benefits of walking on two legs, the freed hands, the elevated viewpoint, the superior cooling in the hot sun, would be worth the costs. And the costs were immense. You became slower, less stable, and plagued by the chronic aches of a skeleton imperfectly adapted to its new role. It was a bet against the proven, four-limbed success of almost every other mammal on the plain. While your ape cousins in the distant forest stuck with their conservative, low-risk strategy of knuckle walking, your lineage went all in on a radical new form of locomotion. That first gamble led to the second, a revolution in your diet. Freed from the singular purpose of locomotion, your hands became instruments of discovery. You bet that by abandoning the specialized diet of a fruit-eating ape for the gritty, opportunistic diet of a generalist, you could survive in a world where the fruit trees were disappearing. You learned to dig for the starchy, reliable calories hidden underground. You learned to strip the tiny, protein-rich seeds from the endless grasses. And most audaciously of all, you learned to crave meat. You gambled that the reward of this high-energy food source was worth the terrifying risk of confronting the world's most dangerous predators. This, in turn, forced the third and perhaps most profound gamble. You picked up a rock and chose to change it. You made the bet that your mind could impose its will upon the physical world, that you could see a potential tool inside a stone and bring it into existence. This wager on technology was a wager on the power of an idea. It was the moment your lineage declared that it would no longer be defined solely by the limits of its own biology. The sharp flake in your hand is a physical manifestation of this bet, a gamble that abstract thought was a more valuable survival tool than sharp teeth. A quirky but powerful concept in evolution is exaptation, where a trait that evolved for one reason gets co-opted for another. Your hands, perhaps freed simply to carry food, were exapted to become the hands of a master craftsman, a beautiful accident of your evolutionary journey. All of these gambles were underpinned by the riskiest wager of all, the bet on each other. You gambled that deep, complex, and costly cooperation would be more successful than individual competition. You bet on the group, on the idea that a collection of fragile individuals could become a formidable force. You see it in the females who act as midwives in the terror of childbirth, in the collective mobbing of a predator, in the sharing of a scavenged prize, and in the protection of the old female who holds your troop's memories. Paleoanthropologists still argue about the prime mover in this evolutionary cascade. Did bipedalism lead to tool use? Did a bigger brain require meat, or did meat allow for a bigger brain? It is a circular puzzle with no clear beginning, but the result is clear. These gambles are what separate you from the apes. They stayed in the forest. You walked out into the sun. They perfected their existence. You reinvented yours. The scientific evidence for this divergence is written in every fossil, in every stone tool, in every isotopic signature in your teeth. You are the embodiment of a work in progress. Your body is a clumsy compromise. Your tools are rudimentary. Your mind is a flickering candle in a vast darkness. Nothing about your future is guaranteed, but you are the sum of all these daring choices. You are the creature that bet on its hands, its brain, and its friends. And that gamble, against all odds, is about to change the world. You are the sum of all your days, of every narrow escape, of every successful forage, of every bond forged through grooming and shared fear. You are a survivor, a veteran of this brutal, beautiful world. And as this day ends, like 1,000 others, the primal urge for safety drives you and your troop back into the familiar, vertical sanctuary of the trees. The climb is an act of muscle memory, your powerful ape-like arms and shoulders hauling your body up the rough bark with an ease born of a lifetime of practice. Tonight, you climb a little higher than usual. High in the canopy of this massive tree, you have spotted a prize, a nest, likely full of protein-rich eggs or helpless chicks, a perfect calorie-dense snack to end the day. It's a small risk for a satisfying reward, a calculation you have made countless times before. You move out along a thick branch, your center of gravity low, your movements confident. The nest is just a little further, at the end of a thinner secondary branch. You pause for a moment, testing the branch with one hand. It seems solid enough. It is a split second of overconfidence, a marginal error in judgment, the kind of tiny miscalculation that is the seed of most tragedies. You shift your weight onto the branch. For an infinitesimal moment, it holds. And then, with a sharp, sickening crack that seems to echo in the sudden silence, the world gives way beneath you. There is no time for a cry. There is only a single pure electric bolt of terror that floods every nerve in your body. It is the shocking, profound sensation of falling, a complete betrayal by the laws of your world. The vertical sanctuary has become a trap. Your mind, unable to process the tumbling chaos of leaves, branches, and the rapidly approaching ground, can only register a single, overwhelming thought. Wrong. The fall is not a long one in time, perhaps only a second or two, but it is an eternity of helpless, weightless terror. You see the hard, packed earth rushing up to meet you. Instinctively, you stretch out your arms to break your fall, a futile gesture against the unyielding force of gravity. The impact is an explosion of pure, white-hot agony. It is not a single event, but a rapid, percussive series of shattering blows that travels up your body. The scientific evidence for this moment is written in a fossil skeleton found 3.2 million years after your death. High-resolution scans of that skeleton, of Lucy, reveal a pattern of catastrophic injuries. You feel them now. A compressive fracture at your right shoulder as your arm takes the first impact. Your ankle and knee buckle, the bones splintering. The force travels up into your pelvis, shattering it. Your ribs crack. It is a cascade of destruction, your body being systematically dismantled by its collision with the planet. This is the leading and mainstream factual hypothesis for how your most famous representative died. Not in the jaws of a predator, but from a simple, tragic fall from a great height. The quirky tidbit is the profound irony of your end. Your hybrid nature, your ability to walk the ground and climb the trees, was your greatest strength. It allowed you to exploit two worlds. But in the end, it was the old world, the world of the trees, that claimed you. You died not because you were a clumsy walker, but because you were still a confident climber. Some paleontologists still debate this conclusion, arguing the fractures could have occurred after death, caused by the immense pressure of being buried for millions of years. But the specific telltale signs of compression and green stick fractures in the bones point overwhelmingly to a single, violent, vertical deceleration event. The world is a universe of pain. From high above, you can hear the frantic, alarmed calls of your troop. They have seen you fall. They are confused and terrified. Their calls are the last thing you will ever hear. The sharp edges of the world begin to blur. The overwhelming pain begins to recede, replaced by a spreading, peaceful cold. The light at the edge of your vision narrows, tunneling into a single point, and then winks out. The story of your life, the continuous stream of sensations, fears, and triumphs that you have inhabited for 30 sections, is over. The frantic calls of your troop from the trees above you fade into an indistinct, distant chorus, and then into silence. For a time, they wait. The new mother clutches her infant. The old female watches the ground with sad, knowing eyes. But the iron law of survival cannot be suspended for long. The sun is gone, the night hunters are stirring, and to be on the ground is to be dead. With a final, mournful series of calls that go unanswered, they move on, a constellation of figures disappearing into the canopy. They are leaving you behind. Your body, now an empty vessel, lies broken at the base of the great tree. The world you were once a part of, the world you feared and mastered, is quick to reclaim you. The scent of your blood draws the first visitors of the night. Scavengers, efficient and unsentimental, arrive to carry on their own struggle for life. They strip your body of its soft tissues, scattering the bones. It is not an act of malice, but of ecology. You are re-entering the great, churning cycle of consumption and decay. Normally, this would be the end. Your bones would be chewed, scattered, and bleached by the sun, eventually turning to dust and vanishing completely. But for you, an accident of geology is about to make you immortal. The rainy season comes, and the river near which you lived your life swells into a muddy, violent torrent. It bursts its banks, and a wave of silty, sediment-rich water floods the plain where your remains lie. Your bones, heavy and broken, are covered in a thick, gentle blanket of mud and sand. This quick burial is a mainstream fact of paleontology. It is the first and most crucial step in the cosmic lottery of becoming a fossil. And now, the timescale of our story begins to stretch. The frantic moment-to-moment survival of your life gives way to the slow, patient, and immense timescale of the Earth. Seasons blur into years, years into centuries, centuries into millennia. More floods come, and more sediment piles on top of you. The weight is immense, a crushing pressure that should pulverize you into dust, but the fine, wet sediment holds your bones in a perfect, supportive cast. Underground streams, rich with dissolved minerals from the volcanic landscape, begin to seep through the layers. Water trickles through the porous, honeycomb structure of your bones, and then a slow, molecular magic begins. One by one, each molecule of your organic bone is replaced by a molecule of calcite or silica. Your body is slowly, imperceptibly turning to stone. The world above you changes beyond all recognition. The climate cools and dries, then warms and wets again, in long, slow cycles. The river changes its course. The very mountains on the horizon are worn down by the wind and the rain. Your species, the audacious gamblers who walked on two legs, eventually vanishes from the earth, replaced by other, newer experiments in the hominin line, creatures with bigger brains, more sophisticated tools, and the first glimmers of fire. They walk the ground directly above your head, completely unaware of the message sleeping beneath their feet. Taphonomists, the forensic scientists of the deep past, still debate the precise conditions of burials like yours, questioning whether they were single, catastrophic events or the slow, steady accumulation of sediment. The quirky tidbit of your story is the sheer, mind-boggling improbability of it all. The odds of any living thing becoming a fossil are astronomically low. You had to die in the right place, be buried in the right way, and survive millions of years of geological pressure, heat, and movement. Your existence as a fossil is a statistical miracle. You are no longer a creature of flesh and blood. You have become a story, a whisper encoded in rock, waiting patiently for a mind capable of reading you. And so you wait through an expanse of time so vast it is nearly impossible to comprehend, while the world above continues its relentless march toward the future. The slow, patient work of geology continues, but now in reverse. The climate changes again, becoming drier. The relentless wind begins to strip away the layers of sediment that have protected you. For millennia, the rain washes away the soft earth, carving gullies and badlands, lowering the surface of the world, bringing you closer and closer to the sun you once knew. And then one day, an unfamiliar rain falls, washing away the last few inches of dirt, and a piece of your arm bone, now a piece of rust-colored stone, is exposed to the air for the first time in 3,200,000 years. And there you lie, a quiet messenger from a lost world, waiting for the footsteps of your children's children's children, a new kind of clever ape that has learned to read the stories that are written in stone. Your journey, for tonight, is over. The frantic pulse of that ancient life can fade now, replaced by the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing. The vast, starry sky of that Pliocene night can dissolve, leaving only the familiar, comforting darkness of your own quiet room. That small troop, huddled together for warmth in the high branches of a tree, has long since vanished, their joys and their fears turned to dust on the African wind. But the echo of their struggle, their incredible, improbable journey against all odds, remains. It's a story that is now a part of you. So let the vastness of that time settle around you now, not as a source of anxiety, but as a deep, calming reminder of the immense and unbroken chain of life that connects you to that distant, dusty plain. Feel the weight of that connection, the strength of it, as it gently pulls you down into a deep and peaceful sleep.